Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto becomes the boyfriend of Akino. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content, and do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Location: Ko Town. Place: Streets of Ko. Time: 1945. A figure moved faster than he ever had in his life, his feet pounding down the pavement. He tripped over his own 2 feet, dropping his bakken. He turned and caught a quick glimpse of his feet, more specifically how his shins up to his knees were encased in a silver-purple-looking pair of shin guards, the bottoms of his feet having a pointed front and a spike jutting out from the side of each. The young man was pulled from his thoughts as a small fist entered his field of vision. Raising his arms with speed that he knew he didn't have, he managed to block the attack but was sent flying into a car. The young man yelled out in pain as the car's frame bent and the windows all but shattered. The horn blared to life, but no one was going to come and see what all the fuss was about. The group that was attacking the blonde was going to make sure that he didn't escape them with his life. He looked up in time to see a flash of steel coming at his face. Out of pure desperation and reflex, he managed to catch the blade between his hands, cutting his hands. He didn't have time to wince in pain as he used all his power to throw the blade away before planting a foot in the stomach of his attack and sending him flying away. Once his attack was clear, a lightning bolt struck him in his chest, making him yell in pain as the sword was pulled away from him. Despite the pain, and his body basically being cooked, he rose to his feet, smoking, and his clothes nearly burned to his skin. He looked through his bangs at the gathered people who had attacked him. "Do you have any last words before I send you to hell?" asked the woman who led the attack. The young man chuckled as he flexed his new black and bloody wings. "You better make sure I stay dead, Rias, or I'm going to rip you and your gang of devils apart, starting with my ex," said the young man as he stared at the young woman with lightning on her fingers. The now named Rias frowned. "You lied to a woman who is my best friend and like a sister to me. I'm going to eradicate you from existence, Uzumaki Naruto," said Rias. So, this is how Uzumaki Naruto goes out. At 17 years old, taken out by his ex-girlfriend's gang of devil friends. Fuck my luck, thought Naruto, thinking back to how it came to be that people he once considered friends were now trying to kill him. Location: Ko Town. Place: Uzumaki Residences / Edding Tides Restaurant. Time: 2000 previous night. Ko Town was a large city about 200 miles north of Tokyo. It had several businesses and a thriving population. It was most well known for its prestigious academy, Ko Academy. The academy was a legacy school that had all grades from kindergarten through to college. It also was famous for the recent addition of the Uzumaki restaurant and alumni of Tatsuki Cooking Academy. It is run by legendary chef Uzumaki Kushina and her students Ikumi Mito and her son Uzumaki Naruto. The sound of moans and grunts could be heard coming from the smallest of the 3 upstairs bedrooms. The 2 people in said bedroom would not be doing this if either of the other 2 residents were around. One of them was because she had feelings for Naruto and thought he was wasting his time and potentially messing around with a woman like Akino, who used men and played them. The other was against the relationship but refused to clarify why that was. Himejima Akino didn't really care if her boyfriend's mother liked her or not. She was in love with the young man who currently had her pressed into the wall and destroying her cunt with his very thick and long rod. Akino was beautiful and only one thing could shake her confidence, but that was neither here nor there. She was a Yamato Nadeshiko. She stood at 5 feet 6 inches, a voluptuous figure with long legs and large H-cup breasts as her defining feature that was currently covered in sweat, violet eyes that were currently squeezed shut in pleasure. Her hair is usually tied in a very long ponytail, reaching all the way down to the floor with 2 strands sticking out from the top and sloping backward, with an orange ribbon keeping it in place. However, said ribbon was currently on the floor, leaving her long hair loose and all over the place. The only thing she wore was a black thong and a pair of high heels that she thought would look sexy on her as she was used. Her boyfriend of 7 months was currently reaching so deep inside of her. He was a handsome man. He stood at 6 feet 1 inch and had the body of a cruiserweight wrestler with the muscles to prove that they were not for show but use. His blonde hair made him easily mistaken for a foreigner, despite him being a native of Japan, with dark blue eyes that had an edge of purple to them. "I'm coming, Akino-chan," grunted Naruto as he sped up his thrusts. "Inside, Naruto-kun. Knock me up like a cheap whore," moaned Akino in Naruto's ear. Both sighed in contentment as Naruto buried himself inside Akino one final time. Akino felt the warmth of Naruto's seed splash against the condom he wore and was a bit upset that they didn't do it bareback. Naruto didn't know her secret about how hard it was for her to get pregnant, but there was no need to tell him that at the moment. Naruto pulled out of her and removed the used condom and was about to throw it away before Akino grabbed it and sucked the semen out of it. She opened her mouth showing it to Naruto, only for his eyes to narrow in lust. Oh, Akino definitely knew how to make him want to bend her over and fuck her. Damn it, Akino. We're supposed to be studying, said Naruto as he wiped his face. Akino laughed as she swallowed Naruto's kids, before taking some mouthwash and rinsing her mouth out. Sorry, Naruto-chan. I couldn't help it. I haven't seen you for a month, said Akino as she crawled along the bed and cuddled with Naruto. The reason for the long break in their 7 months of dating was that Naruto, his mother, and his mother's student traveled to Italy for a food contest. We need to take a shower and air out the room before Ka-chan and Mito-senpai return, said Naruto. Akino smirked before getting up and grabbing a towel. Then we better go together to save time and water, said Akino as she walked out of the room with a sway of her hips. Naruto quickly followed after her. The duo were in the shower for 15 minutes while the window to the room was left open. Luckily Naruto's mother was out for another few hours. Location, Ko Town. Place, Ko Academy, outside. Time, 0740. Naruto and Akino held hands as they walked down towards Ko Academy. Naruto wearing the boy's uniform without the tie and the top button undone, revealing an orange shirt underneath. Over his shoulder was his kickboxing bag. Akino was wearing the female's uniform with a shoulder cape and a sinfully short skirt that revealed Akino's thong if you looked at just the right angle. So did I miss anything while I was gone? Asked Naruto. Akino gave a small laugh. Not much. Just the perverted trio acting up again, said Akino. Perverts, the lot of them, came a voice that Naruto knew well. Naruto smiled as he reached down with his free hand and patted the girl who managed to get next to him and Akino without Naruto noticing. Hello, Tujo-chan. Tujo Kaneko was a first year and according to her big sisters had a massive crush on Naruto. Something Akino teased her mercilessly for wanting to be with her big sister's boyfriend. Kaneko was pretty. But many would also call her a loli since she was a mere 4 feet 6 inches despite being 15 years old. White hair has 2 long bangs going past her shoulders and several loose bangs hanging over her forehead, while the back has a short bob cut. Eyes were the color of molten gold and helped give her a static expression most of the time. Wearing the girl's uniform wears a black cat-shaped hair clip on both sides of her hair. Kaneko frowned, despite how good his head pats felt to her. Kaneko-senpai, said Kaneko. Naruto smiled. Nico-chan, said Naruto. The girl blushed and looked away from him, trying and failing to hide the fact that she had a small crush on her friend's boyfriend. I swear, Uzumaki-kun, you have all the girls eating out of your hands. If I'm the prince, then you're the king, said another boy. Yuto Kiba was all things considered to be the second most handsome boy in Ko Academy, but with his looks and that rather polite way he has with words compared to Naruto's own crass way of speech, the duo was often called the warrior king of Ko and the prince of Ko. Kiba was shorter than Naruto by a good 3 inches, his blonde hair was more matted and straighter than Naruto's own spiky mess, and his face was smooth. His eyes were emerald green, and he wore the clothes of the Ko Academy boys. Naruto smirked. You talk a big game, but you ready to get your ass kicked again? Asked Naruto. Kiba smiled. If I remember correctly, the score is 10-7, said Kiba. In Naruto-kun's favor, Kiba-kun, came a voice that would make many boys and quite a few girls' hearts skip a beat. The girl who spoke was Akino's best friend. One half of the 2 great ladies of Ko and the most popular girl in the entire school. Rias Gremory. If Akino was sex on legs, then this girl was seduction to the eyes. She stood at 5 feet 9 inches and with the way her body was built it was nearly impossible not to pop a boner. Large E-cup breasts that while smaller than Akino's own impressive H-cup breasts, but then again, most girls in Ko were stacked up to at least C. Mischievous blue-green eyes, long, beautiful crimson hair which she also inherited from her father, that reaches down to her thighs with a single hair strand sticking out from the top. Her hair also has loose bangs covering her forehead and side bangs framing her face. She wore the girl's uniform. Good morning, Rias-chan, said Naruto, patting her head. Good morning, future lover, said Rias with a smile, before she reached up on her tippy toes and lightly brushed her lips against Naruto's own. This was something that she liked to do with Naruto, but only when Akino was around. It was an inside joke between the 3. Akino and Rias had invited Naruto out to hang out once. Naruto and Akino had only been dating for about a month at the time. Naruto had once told Rias that her most attractive feature was her hair. Rias' blush matched her hair. To thank Naruto giving him a Cheshire kiss. Naruto blushed and thought that Akino would fly off the handle, but she laughed and told Naruto that she expected him to have cheating sex with Rias before they had a threesome. At that, Naruto didn't know if his girlfriend was taking it in stride or seriously. All in all, ever since that day, Rias would give Naruto a kiss whenever they met. Akino laughed. Rias-chan, you shouldn't kiss another woman's boyfriend, said Akino. Rias smirked, before she gave Akino a full-blown kiss on the lips, making men, women, and anyone else besides their friends to be blown back by a nosebleed. This wasn't as common, but Rias and Akino did practice kissing each other at one point. Kiba smirked at Naruto. How about we give the girls something to look forward to, Uzumaki-kun? Asked Kiba with his most charming smile. Naruto, buy me dinner and take me to a movie first, Kiba. You top or bottom? Said Naruto. Kiba chuckled. I'm not picky. All the girls who managed to recover from Akino and Rias's makeout were instantly knocked out again. Naruto chuckled as he watched the show. While it didn't seem that there were several rumors about what the Occult Research Club and their +1 got up to. Naruto and Kiba broke off and went to the Kendo Club. As the male captains of their respective clubs, they had a responsibility to their club members, especially their female counterparts. As the boys walked off, Rias turned to Akino and Kaneko. Thoughts? Asked Rias. He has a strong aura, but it seems dormant, said Kaneko. A descendant of a yokai maybe, or even a devil? Asked Rias. Maybe. But it's buried so deep that it's hard to tell what he is. He's at least 4 or 5 generations removed from his ancestry. I also smell a sacred gear on him, said Kaneko. Akino? Asked Rias, looking to her best friend. He's your boyfriend. Akino looked at Naruto's retreating back. On one hand, she wanted to keep him far away from the supernatural, but on the other hand, he was so far the only man who had been worthy of her. Despite her age, Akino knew what she wanted in a life partner. Naruto checked all the boxes. Even if he would never have cheating sex with Rias for Akino's own amusement, the threesome wasn't off the table unless they failed. Do what you must, Rias-sama. Just please be gentle when you break the news. And what of Hayate-san? Rias smiled while licking her lips slightly. I have a few pieces. A few more cute servants aren't out of the question. Location, Ko Town. Place, Ko Academy, Gym. Time, 1850. The thumping of a leg of leather could be heard as the kickboxing club was training for their next event. Naruto was kicking the bag as one of the stronger members held it. Naruto wore an orange pair of MMA trunks, black hand wraps, black ankle wraps, and a tiger-striped shirt. Many were impressed with his determination. A month off, and it seemed like he had lost no power in his move. The female members of the club looked on in awe at their captain, while the males wept at his manliness and show of skills. Naruto stopped his last kick midway to the bag as he saw Kiba enter the room. This was odd. Normally Kiba would have kendo practice at this time. Naruto nodded to his vice-captain. Drill 16 and then release for the day, Mio-chan, said Naruto. Hi senpai, said the vice-captain before she turned to the others and began to instruct them in the drill. Naruto grabbed a towel and began to wipe his face. Hey Kiba-san, what is it that you need? Asked Naruto. Rias-sama needs to speak with you about something, said Kiba. The whiskered blonde raised a brow at this. What is this Rias-sama stuff? And what is so important that she sent you to get me? I cannot say, but I can promise that it isn't as bad as you think. In fact, it could be very beneficial to you, said Kiba. Naruto nodded. Alright, let me get changed and you can escort me there, said Naruto. Location, Ko Town. Place, Ko Academy, old school building. Time, 1850. Kiba led Naruto to the ORC clubhouse. A macabre-looking building that used to be the main building of the old schoolhouse. It was 2 floors and had something akin to a bell tower. Creeping vine was growing here and there, adding to the air of mystery and danger. Kiba opened the door and Naruto walked into the ORC clubhouse. As he did, Naruto felt a jolt of electricity travail through his body, making him seize up for a moment. Something inside him was warning him of danger. How could that be? Naruto had been with Akino and her friend numerous times and never felt like this. Then again, he had never been inside of their clubhouse either. Kiba turned to Naruto. Is everything alright, Uzumaki-kun? Naruto snapped out of it. Yeah. I'm fine. Just never been inside before, said Naruto. The duo continued on until they made it to the old principal's office in the east wing of the building. As they entered, Naruto noticed a pair of couches with Kaneko sitting down eating some sweets, the old style of wallpaper, and a large redwood desk in near the wall. He also heard a shower running. Hello, Ruto-kun, said Akino, emerging from a door wearing an apron. Naruto blushed looking at his girlfriend. He imagined her wearing that but with nothing on underneath and them in a kitchen. Naruto shook his head. He had to focus. So why was I called here? It's rare that you guys invite anyone but the student council up here, said Naruto. You're correct about that, Naruto-kun, but we do make exceptions. You are one of those exceptions. So Naruto-kun, you don't mind if I call you that, do you? Asked Rias. Naruto shrugged. He honestly didn't care so long as he wasn't called fish cake. He was a maelstrom, damn it. So what's up? You could have just called my phone, you know, asked Naruto. I could have, but this is official business, said Rias as she sat at her desk and opened a drawer before pulling out a red horse-shaped piece from out of it. I take it you know what this is? Naruto frowned. It's a knight from the chess game. It can only move in an L-shaped direction 3 and 1, said Naruto. Rias clapped. You've been studying, but this is pretty common knowledge. Tell me what you know of devils, angels, and fallen angels? Now this had Naruto frowning. Aren't devils and angels mortal enemies from the Christian mythology? Fallen angel. Only Lucifer earning that title, said Naruto. Rias chuckled as she crossed her arms under her breasts. It's a bit more complicated than that, but yes. However, that is all for later. For now, just know that I want you to be part of my family, Naruto-kun, said Rias. Naruto looked at Rias like she was crazy. I don't think Akino would like us getting married, and last time I checked I have a mom, said Naruto. Akino laughed. That's kinky, but no. What Rias-sama means is that she wasn't you to join us, said Akino. Join us? Asked Naruto. Yes. Become part of my family and a devil in service to the Grimri family, said Rias as she and the others all had black bat-like wings appear out of their backs. Naruto looked at the knight that Rias had in her hand. He was shocked by what he had just heard. Rias? Akino? Kiba? Kaneko? All devils. That was intense. Devils, that's, started Naruto. Rias chuckled. It feels like a fairy tale. I know. Chess pieces that turn you into a devil. A slave, if you will, said Rias. Naruto frowned. Rias, you're a cool girl, but I'm not going to be your slave, said Naruto. Rias noticed a lack of endearment on her name but knew that it was the shock of what Naruto had just discovered about his friends. It wasn't like everyone had friends that were devils. I understand how it sounds. You'll be a slave in name only. The House of Grimri treats all its servants like family. I want you to understand that everyone here is my beloved family, said Rias. Naruto crossed his arms and looked at his girlfriend. Even you, Akino-chan? Asked Naruto. Akino walked up to Naruto and placed a hand on his face. I asked Rias to offer you a chance to live for many years, thousands. To be with me and all the others. In fact, if you rank up high enough in Devil Society, you can have a harem of your own. I won't even bat an eyelash if you bent Rias over her own desk. Naruto was shocked by her statement. How can she so openly talk about this? Sure, he had dreamed of having sex with Rias, but the type of man he wouldn't allow him to cheat on his girlfriend. Then again, devils were creatures of temptation. How much did he really know about devils? Naruto rubbed his head. He thought about his mom and dad. They would grow old and die, but if he became a high-ranking devil, he could help them live forever. And Tsunade, Shizune, and even Mitone. They could all live for a long time. Naruto knew that death was always a factor for all living creatures. His family, despite the long lives the majority of them lived, was no exaction. I guess it couldn't hurt to be a devil, said Naruto. Rias smiled as she hid her wings again and walked up to Naruto and hugged him. I'm glad that you've made this choice. I would hate to have to take this memory from you, said Rias. Rias backed away and held up her hand. In the name of Rias Grimri, I call to Uzumaki Naruto. Hear my command, hear my command. I give thee new life as my demon servant. Become my knight and protector. The knight floated in the air for a second, before glowing a bright red. It shot at Naruto's chest and embedded itself there. Naruto stood still for a few seconds before a pulse burst through his body. The pulses sped up before Naruto felt an electric shock run through his body. Naruto's eyes widened before he yelled in pain and wrapped his arms around himself. His heart beat fast, his legs felt like fire, and he fell to the ground. Before he knew it, a pair of black wings ripped from his back, but not devil wings, fallen angel wings. As they burst from his back, a pair of knee-high purple boots appeared on his feet. The night piece shot out of his chest and back to the floor. Naruto panted as he sat there before he looked up and sought the faces of his friends. On each of their faces was shock, anger, betrayal. And before he knew it, Kiba held out his hands, creating a sword and attacking Naruto, forcing Naruto to flee into the streets of Kuo. Location: Kuo Town. Place: Streets of Kuo. Time: 1945. Naruto looked at Rias as he returned to the here and now. He looked at the people he considered his friends. His friends were trying to kill me. Sweet Kaneko, kind Kiba, joy-filled Rias, and the woman he thought loved him. Do you have any last words before I send you to hell? Asked the woman who led the attack. The young man chuckled as he flexed his new black wings. You better make sure I stay dead, Rias, or I'm going to rip you and your gang apart, starting with my ex, said Naruto. The now named Rias frowned. You lied to a woman who is my best friend and like a sister to me. I'm going to eradicate you from existence, said Rias. So this is how Uzumaki Naruto goes out. At 17 years old, taken out by his ex-girlfriend's gang of devil friends. Fuck my luck, thought Naruto. Rias raised her hand, creating an orb of darkness with a red outline, and aimed it at Naruto. She swung it at Naruto, preparing to end his life, but before the orb hit him, Naruto was covered in a barrier of chains. Everyone looked at where the barrier came from and saw two women standing there. The first was a young woman who was a year or two older than Naruto, and the others had short blonde hair with an ahogue, or a strand of hair that stands out, brown skin, and turquoise eyes. However, she has green eyes in the anime. She also has a noticeably curvy figure and large D-cup breasts, wearing a white bikini top with red flames, short, fringed shorts, brown two leather wristbands, an arm sheath for her cooking knife, and a thigh sheath for her meat cleaver. This was Akumi Mito, Kushina's disciple and an acclaimed chef in her own right. Next to her was another woman. This one was also beautiful with long red hair that easily matched Rias's in shine and luster, but was straighter, purple eyes that were currently narrowed in anger. Her once rounded face was now more heart-shaped. She wore a high-collared, cream-colored sleeveless blouse, black form-fitting pants that reached her calves, and black high heels. Uzumaki Kushina stood there ready to use her fury as a former delinquent to destroy those kids who nearly killed her son. However, what was strange was the fact that Mito had 4 black feather-like wings coming from her back and Kushina had 10 black wings along with several chains coming from her back. Ka-chan, Mitone, said Naruto. What the hell were you about to do to my son, heiress of Gremory? Asked Kushina with narrowed eyes. Location, Ko Town. Place, streets of Ko. Time, 2000. Uzumaki Kushina was many things: a hot-headed young old OHHH lady of 37, a former delinquent, a master chef who specialized in ramen dishes, and a proud mother. She graduated from Tatsuki Academy as the 3rd-ranked chef in the school. She had been offered many jobs from restaurants to 5-star hotels. She turned them all down and went to work for her cousin Senju Tsunade in the Senju hotel chain as the vice president of cuisine. It was there she met her husband, former Asian boxing champion Namikaze the Yellow Flash Minato. Minato and Kushina hit it off when they met and fell in love. They were married 6 months later when Kushina was 19 and Minato was 25. It was 2 years later when Kushina was 21 when Naruto was born and Minato retired and became vice president of entertainment. He mostly spent his time in Canada where he was the country director of Senju hotels. That being said, Kushina couldn't in good conscience work as the vice president while trying to raise Naruto. So, she took up an advisory role after speaking with Tsunade and was the vice president in all but name and would only have to come to a meeting twice a month. So she started a small restaurant and raised Naruto up from there. Over the years she had had a few apprentices come and go, learning under her. Despite Naruto choosing to go into fighting rather than cooking, he was still a pretty good chef. Almost as good as Kushina was at that age, but he rarely cooked since he spent more time training. Her current student Mito was sent by her friends. I won't ask again, heiress of Gremory, said Kushina. This is a waste of time, Kushina-sama. Let me rip them apart for hurting Naruto-kun, said Mito, taking her meat cleaver and using magic to expand the blade to be nearly as long as a sword. Rias frowned. I don't know if you are aware of this, Uzumaki-san, but you are in the territory that I govern. You being here is in direct violation of the ceasefire, said Rias. That would be the case if I was affiliated with the Gigori. I don't have to worry about pissing off the higher-ups and I'm not scared of the devil faction, especially your brother Gremory, said Kushina, crossing her arms over her chest. Rias looked at Kushina. I suppose you can negotiate some measure to move freely in my territory, said Rias. You mean the territory that you're renting for Yusaka? You and that little Citri heiress, asked Kushina, raising an eyebrow. Rias was calm on the outside, but on the inside, she was fucking terrified. Already she knew that Kushina was at least 10 times stronger than her, but to have that information as well did not bode well for the Gremory heiress. Kiba narrowed his eyes before he vanished and appeared before Kushina, thrusting his sword at Kushina. Kushina didn't even flinch as Mito appeared before her, knocking Kiba's sword up with her meat cleaver, before stabbing Kiba in the shoulder with her kitchen knife. Kiba, using his speed, managed to jump back and avoid a serious injury. Kiba's only saving grace was that the steel wasn't holy. "Touch Naru or Kushina-sensei and I'll turn that pretty little face into a flay," said Mito, licking the blood off of her knife. Akino and Rias raised their hands and fired off their respective attacks, aiming at Mito's back, but several chains appeared, forming a barrier stopping the attacks. Kushina jumped into the air and raised her hand, creating a red spear of light, and threw it at Rias and the others. Kaneko jumped in front of Rias and tried to use her own power to punch it, but the spear nearly ripped Kaneko's left arm off. Kaneko screamed in pain as she fell to the ground, holding her arm. "Kaneko-chan!" yelled the others. Rias turned to Kushina and began to gather all her power. "You'll pay for hurting my servant!" yelled Rias as she raised her hands. "Destruction Cannon!" Raised unleashed her strongest attack at Kushina. Kushina narrowed her eyes before pulling her fist back and covering it in several chains before throwing her fist forward and hitting the ball of destructive force that was said to be strong enough to destroy anything, only for the attack to do nothing but disperse. Rias was shocked that Kushina was strong enough to stop her strongest attack. Rias had killed a few fallen angels and even lesser devils before in combat, and was sure that she was strong enough to take on a 10-winged angel, or fallen. But it seemed that Kushina wasn't someone to underestimate. Kushina looked at Rias, before rushing forward and kicked Rias in the chin, sending her skyward. Rias' world exploded in pain, but she was barely skyward for a minute before Kushina grabbed her leg and began to twist around, creating a mini tornado, before releasing Rias and having her fly into Akino. Mito was trading attacks with Kiba, but the speed that Kiba was using was starting to push Mito on the back foot. Mito was strong, but Kiba's speed was unnerving. Besides that, Mito wasn't as good as creating spears as other fallen angels. Kiba had gotten a few slashes on Mito. Kiba was a trained swordsman, whereas Mito relied on the skills she gained in the kitchen to show her battle prowess. The duo locked up once before Kiba put a boot in Mito's gut and sent her away. Mito skidded backward several feet and stopped. Kiba pushed some magic into the sword and charged at Mito, intending to impale her. "Reve!" came a female voice. "One." "Dynamic entry!" yelled Naruto, feeling that a bowl-cut man with thick eyebrows would be proud of him. Naruto appeared and kicked Kiba in the face with a hard. Kiba was sent flying end over end. "Stall!" Naruto winced as his legs began to shake from fatigue and pain. For some reason, he felt like all his energy had been used up in that one attack. Mito looked at Naruto's back. "Thanks, Naru, you're a lifesaver," said Mito with a smile. "Sorry, Mito-ne, but that's all I got in me," said Naruto. "Not surprising you did just awaken your sacred gear, Naru," said Mito. Kiba went to attack again, but several chains wrapped around Kiba, burning his skin, before he was thrown backward to Rias's group. Kushina appeared in front of her charges with narrowed eyes. She raised her hand and created several spears of light. Numbering in the hundreds, prepared to rain hell on the Gremry group. "Enough!" yelled someone, catching the attention of everyone. Rias and Kushina looked over in the direction of where the shout came from. It was a girl who was Rias's age. She was quite a bit shorter than Akino, but still taller than Kaneko at 5 feet 5 inches, a bespectacled young woman with a slim figure, black hair styled in a short bob cut, and violet eyes. Wearing the same uniform as Rias. This was the heiress to the Citri family, student council president of Ko Academy, and co-ruler of the Ko Town Devils. Sona Citri. On Sona's left was her queen, a young bespectacled woman with long straight black hair that extended all the way down to her knees, with split bangs and heterochromic eyes, with a violet left eye and a light brown right eye. Honestly, some people often confuse them for twins with how similar their attitudes and appearance were. In addition to wearing the Ko Academy girls' school uniform, she also wears blue, semi-rimmed glasses with square lenses. 2. Next to her was someone Rias didn't expect. A young man who stood at 6 feet 2 inches and built for a fight with how toned and muscular he was, spiky black hair, dark blue eyes, wearing a black v-neck shirt, black baggy cargo pants, a white jacket, a necklace, which resembles a sword with a stone in it, a metal bracelet and a chain which is attached to the belt loops on the right side of his pants. This was the Knight of Seraphal Leviathan Grey, Fullbuster. 3. "Why are you here, Fullbuster?" asked Kushina as she lowered herself and summoned her spear. Gray stepped forward as the air began to become cold. "I was here to deliver something to Sonache for the boss lady. But when I felt your power, I had to come here." "Red Death," said Gray, holding his hand out and focusing, creating a swirling ball of ice. Rias felt her skin crawl as she heard the name. Red Death was famous for killing 1,000 devils that had attacked her husband and son 15 years ago. She had put the underworld on notice. While 1,000 devils didn't seem like a lot, the fact was that she killed them all within a few minutes using only her chains and fists. Not even her spears of light. Kushina frowned. It's been many years since then. I no longer go by that feared name. Even still, you can't deny your past as that monster, said Gray. It was your people who attacked my family and nearly broke the ceasefire. Azazel doesn't take too kindly to those who try to break the peace. Besides, Yasaka-chan also placed us under her protection, said Kushina, charging up her own energy and heating the air. Even still, I can't allow a fallen angel of your rank near the heiresses of two great devil houses. I'll have to kill you, Ice Age, yelled Gray, slamming his fist into the orb and breaking it. Kushina quickly used her chains to create a fast-moving barrier around herself, Mito, and Naruto, protecting them from the ice shards and sheer cold that was emitting from the orb. But Kushina was focused on defense, since if she went on the offensive, Naruto and Mito would be in danger. Naruto glared at Gray as he felt his legs were no longer shaking and in pain. He felt like he had more stamina than normal and was faster. Crank! Reve! Naruto vanished and reappeared with his right leg aimed at Gray's face. Channeling one of his childhood idols, Naruto aimed his right foot with deadly accuracy. Sweet chin music! Yelled Naruto. 4. Gray was forced to stop Ice Age or lose his head. He ducked the kick, grabbed Naruto by the leg and lifted him into the air before throwing him. Naruto flipped in the air and seemed that a platform of solid air appeared under his feet. He wasn't floating like people who flew, he was standing there. Reve! Naruto smirked as he felt his stamina increase again. Before he allowed the platform, he was on to vanish before he fell with his left leg above his head. Heavenly Axe Drop! Yelled Naruto. Gray raised his arms above his head, coating them in ice as Naruto dropped his heel on the arms. Gray threw Naruto back at Kushina and Mito, where Naruto landed on the ground by his feet and spun a few times before stopping before his mother and Mito in a low crouch. Gray looked at his arms and frowned. Maybe only Kushina noticed it, but Naruto had creaked Gray's ice. Despite being closer to a rook than his position as a knight, Gray possessed a magic that was on par with some of the strongest mage types despite being a fighter type. His ice was probably the 8th most powerful ice in the entire supernatural realm. He knew Seraphal ranked as 2 and the strongest queen ranked as 5, but to know that this newly awakened fallen could creak his ice even if he wasn't at full power was a matter of pride for him. I think that's enough sparring for tonight, said Sona as she stepped forward. Sona, you don't understand Uzumaki is, started Rias. Sona rounded on Rias with a chilling stare. A student of Ko who was attacked by the occult research club without provable cause. Even if Uzumaki-san is a fallen angel, up until earlier this evening I didn't even know he had fallen blood in his veins or how strong it was. As the student council president, it is my job to protect all students. As such, Uzumaki Naruto is now under the protection of the student council, said Sona, before turning to Kushina and bowing. What? Yelled Akino as she took a step forward. How can you do this? This bastard is a fallen angel. He hid among the students, and could have been planning nothing. My son's heritage was sealed by myself, my husband, and my cousin. Me and my family have permission to live in Ko in peace. So long as we don't interfere in the activities of devils, said Kushina as she reached into her pocket and pulled out a scroll. She tossed it to Tsubaki, who caught it and unraveled it. Sona-sama, according to this Uzumaki Kushina, her son, and any disciples that she has been allowed to operate in Ko as part of an agreement that she has with the leader of the Yukai faction. An agreement that your brother knows about and agreed to, Rias-sama, said Tsubaki as she showed everyone the scroll. And sure enough, at the bottom of the school were the names of the Yukai faction leader, the Gigori leader, and the leader of devils. Gray sighed as he rubbed his head. Well, shit. That changes things a great deal. Gremory-sama, I need you and your peerage to accompany me back to your homes and report this to Lady Seraphal and Lord Surzex, said Gray. What, I refuse to be cowed by fallen angels? Yelled Rias. Gray sighed. Don't make me repeat myself, ma'am. We need to leave now. We've already put a serious strain on the ceasefire by attacking Red Death, said Gray. I too think it's best that we all need to leave, said Sona. Rias glared Sona. Very well, said Rias. Gray created a portal, pulling all the devils inside. As they vanished, Naruto looked at Akino's eyes, hoping to find something there, but her eyes avoided his own. As the devils left, Kushina rounded on her son and Mito. I know you have a lot of questions, but not tonight. Tomorrow you won't go to school and we'll talk about everything you want. I'll even call Tsunade and your dad, said Kushina. Naruto nodded as she turned and led Mito and Naruto to their home. Are you alright, Naruto? Asked Mito, putting her knives away after. No, but thanks for asking, said Naruto. Location unknown. Place unknown. Time unknown. Naruto opened his eyes as he looked around. He looked around what could only be a purple-blue sky and rolling fields of green. There were flowers, everyone in the color of red and yellow. Sitting at the edge of a cliff overlooking a sea was a girl. This girl was different. She was slender, and if Naruto was honest with himself, beautiful, but that wasn't saying much, as all the girls who lived in Ko had unnatural beauty. A slender yet toned body with large breasts, red hair that went to her shoulders with purple highlights, a pair of horns, wearing a white shirt that was slightly ruffled at the front, a high-waist red skirt that had a massive red tail with some purple scales poking out from the back, black stocking, and flat brown boots. Her legs were pulled up into herself. "Hey, where are we?" asked Naruto. The girl looked at Naruto with a look of indifference. "I didn't expect you to appear for a while." "We are in your mind," said the girl. "My mind? If we are in my mind, then who are you?" asked Naruto, looking at the beautiful girl. "You can call me Gria. I'm the spirit of your sacred gear," said the now named Gria. "One spirit?" asked Naruto. Gria smiled. "I lost many things many years ago. This is my eternal punishment set forth by God. We are already out of time, but know this: your fight is my fight. Your allies are my allies, your enemies are my enemies, but you have not yet earned the right to use all of my power," said Gria. Naruto looked at her before grinning and sticking out his hand. "I look forward to earning your trust, Gria-chan. Hopefully we can become good partners and eventually friends," said Naruto. Gria looked at Naruto's hand before taking it. "I look forward to our partnership and getting to know you as well, Naruto-san," said Gria as Naruto started to vanish. Location: Ko Town. Place: Uzumaki Residence / Edding Tides Restaurant. Time: 0600. The door to Naruto's room opened and Mito walked in. She wore a tank top and black leggings. She had been asked by Kushina-sensei to awaken Naruto. It wasn't like it was a chore or anything. Mito often woke Naruto, since Mito often rose early for her exercise and training with Kushina. While Naruto normally rose early to train, the past night had been hard on him. His expression was so peaceful. Mito had seen Naruto in his sleep several times. He often lightly snored, but when he was stressed out his expression was so peaceful. Reaching over, she placed a hand on his bangs and moved his hair out of the way, but the peace didn't last as Mito was grabbed and pinned to the bed by Naruto with his knee between her legs and her arms pinned above her head. "What are you doing in my room, Mitone?" asked Naruto. Mito frowned. "Kushina-sensei asked me to wake you up, and don't think just because you have me pinned means that you have me trapped," said Mito. Mito flexed her hips and managed to break free of Naruto's grip, and they both tumbled to the ground in a tangle of limbs, rolling around and grunting. Naruto had reached, but Mito had flexibility and about even in strength. After 2 minutes of this, the wrestling came to an end with Mito straddling Naruto's hips. Mito's emerald eyes looked into Naruto's own as she was atop him in the dominant position. Her shirt had slipped down her shoulders, exposing one large breast with perfectly nickel-sized. Naruto reached up with his free hand and palmed her face before they leaned in together and kissed. They moaned into the kiss as they explored each other's taste. To Mito, Naruto had a strong taste that was unlike anything she had ever tried before. Naruto was not the first boy she ever kissed, nor was he the best kisser, but his taste alone drove her wild. Mito's hands snaked down, feeling his hard chest and abs, while Naruto's hands found their home on her waist, before moving to her large bubble butt. Mito felt her core heating up at his touches and kisses. All strong all the way, at least in her mind, the way a man should touch a woman that he intended to court, date, or whatever term you wanted to use. She wanted this almost as much as Naruto needed this to help clear his head of that witch Akino, who poisoned his innocent mind. It was no wonder Kushina always wanted Mito to run interference, or be around them whenever Akino was around. Well, she'll be around a lot less now, and Naruto can spend more time with someone who deserves him like me, thought Mito. "Mito-chan, Naru-chan, get your freaking pants on and get your butts down here!" yelled Kushina from downstairs. Mito and Naruto pulled back from each other as if an electric shock had just hit them. Both blushed as they turned away from each other. Naruto went to his closet and grabbed some black cargo shorts and an orange shirt and put them on while Mito fixed herself. Neither said a word to each. They walked downstairs where Kushina was waiting at the stoves with an apron on. She turned to the duo and began to direct them to their cooking stations. Location: Ko Town / Ko Academy. Place: Class 3B. Time: 1640. Akino looked out the window, her mind a million miles away. She still couldn't believe it. Her boyfriend of 7 months. A man that she had known for nearly a year. The man who had captured her heart when she should have been corrupting his. The man she chose to give her first time to. The man who carried the cursed blood of the fallen angels in his veins. Akino had always intended for her first major relationship to be an affair. Most likely with Rias's first boyfriend, before they progressed to a trifecta relationship. Akino and Rias had experimented before, and Rias was surprisingly good at pleasing women. That fantasy lasted all of 2 years before Akino met. Well, he was irrelevant at the moment. Many people wouldn't know it, but Rias and Akino shared the same taste in men but for different reasons. Rias liked her men chivalrous because she wanted romance. She liked them to have power due to her nature as a devil, and what girl didn't want a handsome man? Akino liked them chivalrous because she wanted to corrupt them. She wanted them to have power enough to make her the slave to the master, and leave her body wrecked in pleasure from BDSM used on her. Because of everything Rias was dealing with, Akino amended her plans slightly. If Rias didn't have a boyfriend for Akino to get him to cheat on her, then Akino would find a boyfriend that would cheat on her with Rias. Before it evolved into a hot nasty threesome. Many people wouldn't understand Akino's desire to be cheated on / cheated with. It's just who she was. She wasn't a cuck or anything like that, there was just something wrong in her head. Something she had known for a long time. Maybe it was because of her repressed issues, but that was another matter. 2. So it was that idea of finding a boyfriend that spurred her on. She was a bit picky about it. For starters, she made sure that anyone she went on dates with didn't have any connections to Ko Academy. So, she went out with college students and boys from other campuses. When she felt like she had a good grasp of a man's heart, she erased their memory. Over the course of 2 years from the age of 14 to 16, she had over 20 boyfriends. The furthest any of them ever got was some heavy making out with Akino's top off. That was quickly stomped out after she discovered that he bragged to his friends. Well, at least he had a pretty memorable funeral. The problem was that none of them were ever good enough for Akino, let alone Rias. Sure, a few would be fine for a moment's distraction, but nothing long term. A few months after she turned 16, she decided to take a break from the finding a boyfriend thing. One day she was hungry, and just so happened to find the ebbing tides. She went in and found the air of the place warm and inviting. That was when she saw him. Uzumaki Naruto was additive, to say the least. His very presence just drew her in. Before she knew it, she was talking to him. Before long she found herself at the shop every day. Within a month Naruto asked her on a date. Following 7 dates they agreed to become an official couple. That was 7 months ago, and within 2 months of them dating they had moved on to having sex. Himejima-san, came a voice somewhere from the coast. Akino was brought back to reality as she looked at the person who called her. It was her fellow, queen, and vice president of the student council Shinra Tsubaki. "Can I help your Shinra-san?" asked Akino. Tsubaki kept her serious expression, almost as if she was trying to mimic Sona. "Class is over. You've been distant all day, Himejima-san," said Tsubaki looking down at Akino. "Have I? Sorry, I have a lot on my mind," said Akino looking out the window again. "Does it have something to do with a certain boyfriend?" asked Tsubaki. Akino laughed, but if you knew her, you'd know the pain in her voice. "Ex-boyfriend if he knows what's good for him." "Then you wouldn't mind if I asked him out on a date," said Tsubaki flicking her long hair. "What?" asked Akino, shocked by what she said. "You heard me. I've already spoken to Shitori-san, and she's given me her blessing to try my luck at courting Uzumaki-san. She thinks it would be good for me to have a love live outside of my duties. I must admit that I'm a bit curious about how Uzumaki-san is as a lover," said Tsubaki. "He's a crow," said Akino, her rage slowly building. Tsubaki shrugged. "Nothing wrong with that. Last I checked there are a few fallen angel-devil couples running around the Citri territories and even the Gremri territories. Maybe he and I could be another," said Tsubaki. Akino rose to her feet, lightning flashing in her eyes. "Don't test me, Tsubaki." Tsubaki gave a small, almost unnoticeable smirk. "How am I testing you, Himejima-san? It's clear that you've given up on him," said Tsubaki. "Tsubaki," warned Akino, gritting her teeth in anger. Such a shame that his girlfriend couldn't give him a chance to explain himself before attacking along with her brain-dead king and her merry band of misfits, said Tsubaki. Smack! Tsubaki staggered back slightly as her glasses hit the ground. Her hand went up to the stinging sensation in her right cheek. She knew that her face was red as Akino had added in some of her supernatural strength to that slap. She was just thankful that she didn't add any magic to it. Sure, Tsubaki knew that she had pushed Akino, but she didn't think that she would do something like attack the retainer of another house. Tsubaki glared at Akino. That was quite uncalled for, Himejima-san, said Tsubaki as she picked up her glasses. Akino seemed to realize where she was and quickly felt the cool chill knowing that she had fucked up royally. Quickly gathering her things, she ran out of the room. People began to talk about what transpired, unaware that one of the boys in class was smirking and thinking that this was a prime opportunity. Now all he had to do was call his boys to deal with Uzumaki. Location: Ko Town. Place: Uzumaki Residence / Edding Tides Restaurant. Time: 2330. Naruto and Mito were in the kitchen cleaning dishes. The last of the customers had left not that long ago, so the group needed to clean up and prepare for tomorrow. Kushina had left Naruto and Mito in charge of cleaning the kitchen, while she took care of the customer dining room. Naruto turned to look at Mito and blushed. While he tried not to think about it, he had Mito pinned under him, and for a few brief minutes, the duo had traded spit. Naruto-kun, about earlier, started Mito. It's alright, Mito-ne. You were doing it for me. I know I'm not the type of person you look for in a man. And I'm sorry I pawed you like an animal. I know you probably don't want anything to do with me, so if you don't want to talk to me again, that's fine. Mito looked at Naruto, before giving him a light chop on the head. Don't take it so seriously, Naruto-kun. I'm not the type of girl who would kiss someone she didn't have any feelings for. To be honest with you, started Mito as she blushed. I've kind of been crushing on you since Kushina-sensei took me as an apprentice. Naruto blushed. Mito-ne, started Naruto before he was chopped again on the head. Ouch. Damn it, woman, stop hitting me. Don't think you're getting into the kitchen that easy. You have to buy me dinner, lunch, and breakfast before you even think you're going to put any of your nuts in my bowl, said Mito strictly. The blonde-haired young man opened his mouth to respond to Mito. Naruto-chan, Mito-chan, can you come to the family dining room, came Kushina's voice. Coming, sensei / Ka-chan, said the duo as they finished putting away the dishes. The duo walked into the Uzumaki family's private dining room. Sitting around the table was 4 people, 3 of which Naruto knew very well. The very first person Naruto laid his eyes on aside from his mother was his cousin. The woman stood at 5 feet 3 inches and was a fair-skinned woman with E-cup breasts, fairly athletic honey-brown eyes and straight blonde hair that parts above her forehead with shoulder-length bangs that framed her face, and the rest reached her lower back and tied into 2 loose ponytails. Wearing a white long-sleeve blouse has only 3 buttons done up to the middle of her chest, revealing her sizable cleavage, red pencil skirt. She wears open-toed, strapped black sandals with high heels. She has red nail polish on both her fingernails and toenails and uses soft pink lipstick. Around her neck was a green crystal necklace that belonged to her grandfather. This was Senju Tsunade, president and CEO of Senju Hotels, Entertainment, and Medical. Tsunade had always been close to Naruto. When Naruto was younger, when it was just Naruto and Tsunade in the mall and out by themselves, or with Shizen, they had assumed that Naruto was Swanda's son and Shizen was her daughter. As Naruto grew, people assumed that Naruto was Tsunade's brother. On Tsunade's left, a fair-skinned woman of average height and slender build with large C-cup breasts, onyx eyes, and jet black hair. Her hair is straight and shoulder-length with bangs that cover her ears and frame her face. A purple business suit and a white shirt. She leaves the top portion jacket unbuttoned, with her slacks being somewhat skin-tight, and black-heeled shoes. Kodo Shizen was something along the lines of the big sister that Naruto had never had. If he and Tsunade were close, then when they were young, Shizen and Naruto were nearly inseparable. Shizen was Tsunade's adopted child. The orphan niece of her first husband Kodo Dan was also the first woman that he had kissed. Sitting on the right side of the table, a tall, fair-skinned man frequently compared to Naruto in physical appearance. Both have blue eyes and spiky, blonde hair. Minato also had jaw-length bangs framing either side of his face. Minato was considered to be very handsome. He wore a navy blue suit with his jacket off and his tie loosened. This was different from his normal well-put-together image. This was Namikaze Uzumaki Minato, Kushina's husband, Naruto's father, and the North America regional director for Senju Hotels. Despite not being around often, he still made an attempt to be with Naruto and Kushina at least 2 weeks out of every season. He also was the original inspiration for Naruto learning how to fight. The final man sat across from Minato was relatively handsome and stood tall at 6 feet 2 inches and looked to be in his early 30s. He had the build of a man who worked out regularly, but not to an excessive amount. Black hair, golden bangs, and a black goatee. Wearing a V-neck maroon long coat with a wide, open high collar that opens up at the hem. The long coat also featured 2 black belts around the waist and 4 black bands on each arm, 2 of the bands at the wrist and the other 2 near the elbow. He wore gray slacks and brown shoes. He seemed to be perfectly relaxed sitting among the people here, as if he had known them their entire lives. Minato rose from his spot at the table and walked towards Naruto. He had a big smile on his face before he pulled his fist back and threw it at Naruto's face. Naruto managed to duck to the side before he threw out his own kick that Minato caught. Minato smiled. Glad to see that you're keeping up with your training, Naruto, said Minato. I'm glad to see that you haven't gotten any slower in your old age, said Naruto. Minato frowned. I'm only 41, said Minato, crossing his arms and pouting like a baby. Kushina laughed. I don't know, dear, you're straying to grow a few grays, said Kushina, playing with Naruto's hair. The others laughed at the trio. While Naruto favored Minato more in the looks department, it was clear that his personality came from Kushina. Are you going to ignore your favorite Nei-chan? Asked Shizen. Naruto smirked, before walking over to Shizen and picking her up bridal style, making her yelp, before spinning around. Naruto Kyuen. Put me down, yelped Shizen with a laugh as she threw her arms around Naruto. It had been months since the duo had seen each other. Naruto held her for a few minutes before putting her down. Tsunade finally walked over and pulled Naruto into a hug before kissing him on the forehead. Good to see you, Brad, it's been too long, said Tsunade. I couldn't agree more, Tsunade-bachan. 6 months away from my favorite cousin sucks. Did Uncle I and B-sensei didn't come with you? Asked Naruto, looking around for his uncles. 3. Tsunade shook her head. No, he's busy preparing his Lightning Court faction for AJWF Big PPW Battlezone. He plans to defend the AJWF title in a triple threat match. Oh, he also said Lightning Court still has an open sport for you whenever you're ready to take up the limelight in the ring, said Tsunade, shaking her head at the thought of her husband's love for the sport. Wrestlers. Bunch of fake fighters, said Minato with a frown on his face. Please, Minato, you're just mad I couldn't hit you with his lariat and nearly knocked your head off, said Tsunade. Naruto smiled at his father's attitude towards wrestling. While Naruto was a pretty well-rounded fighter, and the regional under-18 kickboxing champion, and the 4th-ranked under-18 national kickboxer in Japan, most of his base came from his training with both I and his father. While his father had started him young on the fundamentals of boxing when he spent 2 years in the United States, when he came back to Japan I took Naruto under his wing and began to train him. Not just in the art of wrestling but in the art of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, judo, and basic karate. A common fuck you to his opponents before a match was that Naruto would wear a sleeveless hoodie to the ring. It said these hands are rated E for everyone. And it tended to piss off his opponents. Sorry to hear about you and that girlfriend of yours. Always seemed like a little slut to me. You should just marry Shizen. Save everyone months of two people feeling each other. I mean, you two practice kissing often enough, said Tsunade in a joking manner. Shizen looked at Tsunade as if she betrayed her. Tsunade-kasama, you said that you would never tell a soul about that. Tsunade grinned. There's nothing wrong with two cousins making out with their shirts off, said the haired woman, intentionally steering the pot. Kushina gained an aura of rage about her as she looked Shizen. You tried to seduce my son when he was 13 and you were 20, yelled Kushina. Minato and the mystery man both gave Naruto a thumbs up from behind Kushina's back. It was always a coup with a younger male scoring with an older chick. Of course, that was a double standard of society, as Minato, Uncle I, Uncle B was very protective of their other cousins who attended one of Tsunade's schools. Chibi Shizen ran and hid behind Tsunade. I'm sorry, Kushina Obasan Buta just broke up with my boy Firend and Naruto kun naskedmif hekud format mentan practice making was think Nigan said Isen before I knew it was Greenadingan Hassan he was doing things with his mouth that Tninil Sieve ever been with could do, said Shizen in one breath. 4. Tsunade waved one hand. Calm your tits, Kushina. Remember, Naruto is heir to the Senju and Uzumaki families. With the way our bloodline is, I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up with a harem of girls, said Tsunade, hoping that Kushina wouldn't maim Shizen too badly. That pulled Kushina out of her aura of darkness before she ran over to Naruto, pulling him into her breasts, and began to shake him with tears in her eyes. I don't want my Naruto-chan to be a player and have a harem of busted babes. I want him to be a respectable man with a tough yet traditional wife and give me 10 grandbabies. That's why I've been training Mito-chan to be the perfect girlfriend and future wife. Mito's face turned atomic red. Future wife, 10 babies, that means lots of sex. Naruto-san is big, he'd stuff my guts full of his seed. I'd give birth to his babies easily, thought Mito as she thought of Naruto coming home from a long day at work before picking her up and throwing her on the couch, before fainting and Shizen catching her. Naruto looked at the last man who was sitting at the table. He felt familiar yet not. Who's the jabroni sitting there like he's the head of the table, said Naruto, pointing to the blonde-haired dude who wasn't his dad. It became so quick you could hear a pin drop. Shizen and Mito's mouths fell open. Minato slapped his forehead with an amused smile on his face, while Tsunade and Kushina were barely holding back their laughs. The man chuckled before it became a full-on belly laugh. Damn Kushina, I knew you kid had balls. Definitely didn't take after girly but here, said the man pointing at Minato. Minato narrowed his eyes. Screw you, you old bastard, said Minato. Sorry you're not my type, Mino boy, said the man. You going to answer my question, or do I have to hit you with a stunner? Asked Naruto, crossing his arms. The man chuckled. Alright, kid, keep your pants on. I'm Azazel, the short of it is this. I'm the Governor General of the Gigori, or leader of the Fallen Angel faction. The long answer is this. I'm the great-great-grandfather to Kushina, the great-grandfather to Tsunade, and the great-great-great-grandfather to you. You can call me old man, Azazel, or granddad. My cute little Kushina-chan asked me here to explain things to you and how the combined Senju Uzumaki family factors into all of this crazy supernatural mess, said the man with a smirk on his face. Location: Ko Town / Ko Academy. Place: ORC Clubhouse, Primary Room. Time: 0000. Akino stood before a pacing Rias. Kiba and Kaneko were on either side of her in case she did something foolish. While Rias trusted Akino with her life, kings in the past had made the mistake of not having a proper guard when dealing with someone they trusted. While it may not seem as if Akino and Rias would ever come to serious blows, Akino had an advantage over her king in a fight. A deadly advantage that Rias made sure to remember. The reason Rias was pacing was because she had received an official complaint from Sona about the actions of Akino, attacking Tsubaki in front of other students. It would require the school to get involved. Provoked or not, it was uncalled for. Akino, what were you thinking? Slapping Tsubaki like that? Not only is she the student council vice president, but Sona's right hand. Do you understand what you have done? Said Rias rather harshly to her queen. Akino lowered her head, not daring to meet the eyes of the woman she saw as a sister. She knew that she had made a mistake, one that had serious repercussions. Not just for her, but for Rias as well. The queen of the Gremry peerage fell to her knees and pressed her forehead to the floor. I understand and will accept whatever punishment you give me, Heiress Gremry. I am at fault for my own actions and the consequences lay squarely on my shoulders, said Akino. Kaneko and Kiba looked at each other. They knew that Akino was serious whenever she called Rias heiress. It was one of the few things they all agreed upon. Never to call Rias heiress to her face unless they messed up. Bad. Admitting fault isn't enough, Akino. I know that this thing with Naruto pushed you, but you allowed your anger to not only embarrass me but put me in a very unfavorable light with Sona. The political situation in Ko between the Gremry peerage and Citri peerage wasn't black and white. While it would seem that Ko was split 50-50 between the Gremry and Citri families, it was more along the lines of the Citri running the administration of the supernatural, and the Gremry running the security. Of the nearly million people in Ko, 20,000 were of the supernatural and another 50,000 humans knew about it. Part of their job was to protect the supernatural from humans who looked to take advantage of them, and vice versa. It was part of their deal to govern Ko Town. The duo only controlled Ko through the graces of the Kyoto Yukai faction. A deal was made between Yasaka and Sarah Fall Leviathan for Sona. Rias's brother caught wind of this and asked if Rias could join in. Not just due to the fact that Rias needed to get some management skills under her belt, but because she loved Japan. Seeing as the Gremry and Citri families were allies, Lord Citri allowed Rias to join Sona as the co-ruler of Ko in name only. 1. Despite them being allies, devils were always looking for even a modicum of power. Rias's job as king was to make sure her chosen peerage members were kept in line and followed all rules that went with being a devil. They were also there to fill every desire their king had. If Rias honestly wanted to, she could turn her entire peerage into sex slaves, which wasn't that uncommon of a practice. A queen's job was to be the disciplinarian of their king. For Akino to do what had given Sona ammo to leverage anything within. Luckily Sona and Rias had an understanding and this wouldn't have to go higher than between the two of them. They both knew what Sona would want. She would want the right to claim first dibs on anyone who took their fancy when it came to their peerages. Sarah Fall didn't pick Ko because of its location. She picked it because it had one of the highest magical rates outside of Kyoto and Tokyo. Supernatural energy could be found the world over, and while humans worried about country borders and the like, magical borders were the concerns of the supernatural races. One of the things that Rias managed to negotiate out from under Sona's total control was the first pick of anybody who caught their shared interest. If Rias was going to run security, she needed the best fighters she could find. Sona had a bigger peerage because none of Sona's current members had ever agreements, something that Rias tried to keep as her sole advantage. Rias's peerage was geared more towards combat than Sona's defensive team. Strip, ordered Rias as she held out her left hand and summoned a whip of energy. Akino did as told while Kiba and Kaneko moved back a bit. as two magic circles appeared above her head before Akino's hands flew up and were bound in place. Kiba moved to place a guard in Akino's mouth, only for Rias to stop him. He understood. You will face your punishment, and you will not be allowed to suffer your pain in silence. You will not be allowed to hide your shame. You will beg for mercy, said Rias. 2. They all knew that Akino would not beg for Rias to stop or beg for mercy. She accepted her punishment with all the grace she could muster. As Rias pulled her arm back and unleashed the first painful lash of 100, Akino tensed as the whip smacked against her skin. She let out a cry of pain that hurt Rias's heart. But this must be done. Even if Akino had brought this on herself, Rias could not afford to show weakness, even to her family. Location: Ko Town. Place: Uzumaki Residence / Edding Tides Restaurant. Time: 0000. Grandfather? Asked Naruto, blinking. Azazel nodded. That's right. I'm your grandfather, kid. Ain't no way I'm related to your ugly ass, you one dress code violation from an uptown gigolo on a Tuesday night, said Naruto. Great times 3 actually, said Minato. His first wife Senjumika was my great-grandmother, while your own great X3 grandmother was Uzumaki Hitomi. Before even that, our families share a common ancestor known as the Sage of Six Paths. A legend who was said to be able to kill demons with just his mystical truth-seeking orbs, said Tsunade. Let us not get off topic. That's a discussion for another day, said Azazel. What about Dad? Uncle I and Uncle B, Shizune? Asked Naruto. Well, to answer your question, Minobu, I and Rapper B are exiled heroes who have been wanting to get turned into artificial fallen angels because of their love for the family. I'm still working out the kinks for the reincarnation system that matches the peerage and brave saint system the devils and angels use. I'm thinking of something cool to name at the moment, perhaps the guild or armor system, said Azazel. Mito cleared her throat. Azazel-sama, you're getting off track, said Mito. Azazel looked sheepish. Right. Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm not one for long stories, so I'll keep this brief, but sit back and relax. A really long time ago, before Christianity took hold of the world, angels were the chosen servants of God. Not one of the Paratheion gods, but the one true God, Jehovah, not to be confused with Allah. I've seen many people make that mistake before. Anyway, we were happy for a while, at least until Adam and Eve broke his order not to eat the fruit from the Garden of Eden. They were exiled from the garden and began a family. But Lucifer wasn't happy for them to just be exiled, he wanted them eliminated. Jehovah saw no need to kill them as they lost their immortality. So over the years, as humanity grew and began to worship Jehovah, Jehovah gave one of his sons to forgive the sins of humans. Jesus to the humans in the form of the Virgin Mary. There are some very huge flaws with that particular legend, but I'm not going into it. Anyway, Lucifer led the first and second legions in the heavenly rebellions. Before the rebellion happened, he used the power of sin to permanently dye his wings black. We all followed suit. We still had our power, obviously. We fought and we lost. God banished us from heaven to the underworld. Several of us were done at that point, we had lost. We decided that it was best to focus on repopulation since we were not going to get back to heaven anytime soon. Back then we could repopulate quickly. After 300 years we went from the 12,000 defectors to millions, said Azazel. I don't understand what does that has to do with the devils and the Great War, said Kushina, having never heard this before. The Great War was well known, but this information was something that she didn't expect. Well, I was getting to that. Around that time, I was more brutal, more warrior than the researcher I am today. At that time, I was also a commander in the army of the fallen angel. What I didn't know at the time was that Lucifer was in talks with demons of the underworld. Leviathan, Asmodeus, and Beelzebub. Back then they were just powerful demons and didn't have the ability to move past that fact. Lucifer changed that. Through the power of the 4 of them, Lucifer shed his connection to God and became the first devil, with the other 3 following suit. In time others joined them, with Lucifer as the leader, and the 72 pillars were born. Lucifer came to the commanders and told them what he had done. Many of us were shocked and refused to shed our connection to our Father, no matter how we felt about his favoritism of humans. A few joined Lucifer, but we were ill-prepared for his assault on heaven some 200 years later, and using us as scapegoats. We figured out what happened, and thus the Great War began. The rest is pretty much history, finished Azazel. The others were quiet and didn't know what to say. Information like this must have been well guarded by all 3 of the biblical factions' higher-ups. It makes you wonder what else they are hiding, said Gria to Naruto. Hey Azazel, how about a sparring match? Asked Naruto. Everyone looked at Naruto as if he had grown a second head. Although to Tsunade and Kushina it wasn't a surprise since the shared Senju/Uzumaki family were something akin to battle fanatics. No matter the battle, be it against a person, a thing, or even something as trivial as an eating contest, they loved a good fight. Azazel smiled. Sure. It will give me a chance to examine your sacred gear, said the leader of the Gigori. Location, Ko Town. Place, Shielded Field. Time 0100. Azazel and Naruto stood across from each other with Naruto starching his legs and Azazel had his arms crossed. Kushina, Minato, Tsunade, Shizen, and Mito stood a ways away from the duo. Mito was nervous. Is this a good idea for Naruto-kun to fight Azazel-sama? Asked Mito. It will be fine. Old man Azazel won't go too hard on the brat, said Tsunade. But still Naruto-kun is biting off more than he realizes, said Shizen, biting her lip. Let him learn the hard way. As good in a fight as we are, Uzumaki are hard-headed. Half the time we only understand something is for it to be beaten into our heads, said Kushina. You going to starch before we dance, old man? Asked Naruto as he stood up and bounced on his feet. No need. In fact, I'll make this fair, said Azazel as he held out his hand and summoned a pair of leg and wrist cuffs. What are those? I said dance, I didn't say cuff, said Naruto. Azazel chuckled before he put the cuffs on. These cuffs are a bit different. Alongside adding about 2 tons per wrist, it also restrains my power output by 90%. I normally use them when I want to train. Oh, before we start, Kushina, I need to speak with you and Minato after I give your son a spanking, said Azazel. Naruto chuckled as he creaked his kunkles. Cocky for an old bastard, ain't ya? Better than some cocky brat whose balls haven't dropped yet, said Azazel with a smirk. You ready to go, partner? Asked Naruto. A ethical form of Gria appeared over Naruto's shoulder. I am, but you're going to have a problem. The speed that you're going to give you tunnel vision, and problems with vertigo. Any idea how to mitigate that? Asked Naruto. Yes. Activate our power, Naruto-kun, said Gria. Naruto focused on his legs as the boots appeared on his legs and feet. He also had the urge to hold out his right hand as it glowed in a pair of pink-purple crystal-like shades. Naruto put them on his face, and they fit great. Naruto noticed up in the upper right eye were 10 unlit counters, just below a green line with the letters STA. Naruto raised an eye at this. Stamina? Thought Naruto. Gria? Asked Naruto. Those counters are the number of times you can rev up. Your sacred gear doubles your speed and stamina per rev every 10 seconds. You can stack your reves, hence the counter. You can use crank to increase the power of your attacks, but you'll lose a counter and part of your base stamina. If you use up all of your base stamina, you will stall out and need to recover. You'll barely be able to move until you get another rev to help stabilize your condition, said Gria. Anything else? Asked Naruto. Duck, said Gria. Naruto did as Gria said, managing to duck as a spear passed over his head. Naruto took off running a speed that would have been hard for anyone below a 4-winged fallen angel to keep up with. Naruto noticed that his stamina bar lowered just a sliver. Naruto flipped and charged at Azazel and threw a spinning high kick. Azazel blocked the attack with his arm before he thrust his palm into Naruto's chest. Naruto was sent flying backward and landed on his back before he rolled to his feet and slammed his hand into the ground. Rev. Naruto felt an increase in stamina and speed. He rushed forward and jumped to throw a spin kick at Azazel's head. The leader of the Gigori leaning backwards like he was in the Matrix, but was shocked as Naruto's leg stopped before he reversed direction and flipped, creating an axe kick-like motion. Was the attack faster than before? Rev. Crank. Full moon axe, called Naruto. Azazel crossed his arms and felt the power of the kick. His arms didn't even go numb from the pain, but it did confirm what he thought about Naruto's power. He was using an enhancer-type gear. However, it was a speed type. Considering that his young charge had something similar. Azazel pulled his fist back and threw it forward and hit Naruto in the jaw. Naruto's vision swam as he was about to go flying, but Azazel grabbed him by his leg and pulled Naruto backward, before releasing him and dropping him on the ground. Mito and Shizen winced in pain for their friend. And even Kushina was starting to get worried. Naruto, you're at 50% stamina after that attack you just got hit with. You need to recover, said Gria. Naruto looked at the stamina bar and knew that she was speaking the truth. He went to rise up, but a foot slammed onto his chest and pinned him in place. You got a lot to learn, kid. You're not some protagonist in a comic or some guy's ideal fiction hero. Had this been a real fight, you would have been dead in 20 seconds. 1 second to kill you and 19 seconds to destroy your body. While there are a lot of battle maniacs in the supernatural world, there are just as many threats that won't be so kind and finish you the second you give them an opening. Your mom and dad spoiled you by trying to make sure you were more human than fallen, said Azazel, all traces of the kind man gone. Naruto grits his teeth in anger. I've won plenty of fights, yelled Naruto. In tournament settings and street fights. Glorified sparring matches and unsanctioned brawls. While you're a lot stronger than someone your age should be, you are still no stronger than an average two-winged angel. No, you're weaker. You don't know how to use your corrupted holy energy, your magic, your unique fallen angel power, or even your gear. Your spirit was whispering how to use the gear in your ear. You have the ability to use it, doesn't mean you know how to use it, said Azazel. 3-4. He's right, son, said Minato as he appeared next to Naruto. I was born with the sacred gear that allows me to travel to any location I have marked. But even without it, my base speed is so much higher than other people. They're not wrong. It has been a while since I had a wielder. I'd hate for you to die before you realize your full power. You need to train. As if they were on the same wavelength, Azazel looked to Kushina. I need your son for about 2 weeks to get the basics down, said Azazel. Minato-kun, how long are you in town for? Asked Kushina with a sultry smile. Minato smiled. About a month. But I'm sure that Naruto will be busy for at least 2 weeks, said Minato. I can take Mito for a few weeks. I might be able to teach her something other than how to use that chopper of hers for fighting. Besides, Shizen needs a vacation, said Tsunade. The trip wanted to protest but knew that it would be useless. Shizen did need a much-needed vacation. Mito needed to learn that there was more to life than cooking, and Naruto needed a lot of work in the supernatural department. Azazel put his hand on Naruto's shoulder, making him tense. Shall we go, my cute little grandson? Asked Azazel as he opened a portal for them to travel through. As they vanished, Naruto knew that the next 2 weeks were going to be hell. Location, Ko Academy. Place, courtyard. Time, 0700. Naruto walked down the street to school. He had spent the last 2 weeks speaking, training with his family, especially the perverted old bastard, on his abilities as a fallen and even part of the unique abilities that he possessed. Despite him only recently awakening his fallen angel side and his sacred gear, it had given him a boost in power. Normally one needed to be at least 6-winged fallen angel before they gained their unique skills and powers. However, thanks to Gria, Naruto was about to gain his unique power. The ability to clone himself, although he could only make 4 clones, but each clone required 1/4 of his total power, so he had to be careful when using them in a fight. He had yet to utilize them for combat outside FO training. Despite how he felt about perverts like Azazel, the man was as smart and strong as he was perverted. Azazel had identified his sacred gear and had dubbed it a pseudo-Longinus, 1 level below the 13 strongest sacred gears in the world, nearly being paired with the eternal rivals of red and white. He had asked about any hot women that Naruto had had relations with, and if he wanted, Azazel could introduce him to a few women, but currently Naruto was doing something else. He looked to his right, and walking behind him was his cousin as she was eating ice cream. She was a short stack standing at 5 even with B-cup breasts, had long blonde hair, dark red eyes, and a petite waist. She currently wore a navy blue sleeve shirt, a black skirt that had a white line on it, a red tie that had a cross on it, a bracelet on her left arm, thigh-high black stockings, and brown loafers. This girl was Eve Volfi, an artificial human, made by one of Azazel's close personal allies and friends. She was quite something. Not a homunculi, but not fully human either. In Azazel's own words, she was a deadly weapon packed into a cute form. 1. The only problem was that she was as static as a piece of cloth. So, Naruto had spent the weekend trying to help her reach her emotions. It was slow, but she picked things up fast. When he wasn't helping her learn, he conversed, and showed her things like video games and the like. It also gave him time to think about Akino. Despite what her and the others had done, he still had feelings for her. He still loved her, but after what she did, could he forgive her? Maybe, but definitely not forget. He wouldn't seek her out, but if he encountered her, he would not run away. Naruto, I expected you to be out for a while longer, came a monotone of voice. Naruto turned to see the person he considered his best friend. The boy was much shorter than Naruto, standing at 5 feet 7 inches, and while he seemed to be a bit on the skinny side, let him remove the uniform and you'd see that he was more on the toned and lean side of the spectrum. Blood red hair. Sabukagara. Gaara was something of a wild card when it came to school. He often tended to sleep through class but was also in the top 10 in their year group. He also didn't attend any clubs, but he oftentimes stopped by the kickboxing club just to sit and watch. Surprisingly, Gaara was actually a good fighter, but he had no real desire to fight. "Hey Gaara, long time no see bro," said Naruto fist bumping his friend. "I was worried about Naruto. Is everything alright?" said Gaara. Naruto smirked. "Yeah, I was with my grandfather for a few weeks. Old man is as perverted as water is wet," said Naruto. Eve looked at Naruto with her head tilted slightly. "Azazel-san isn't that bad." Naruto opened his mouth to speak. "Well, look who's back. I thought you took off for parts unknown after Akino-san dumped sorry ass." Gaara, Naruto, and Eve turned to look at the person who opened their mouth. The boy in question was taller than Gaara at 5 feet 10 inches but shorter than Naruto, but where Naruto was more on the slender side, this guy had more muscle, a wild appearance, messy brown hair, sharp black eyes with vertical slit-like pupils, pronounced canine teeth, and a goatee. He wore the boy's uniform, but over that he had a leather jacket. The boy was Inuzuka Kiba, Naruto's biggest rival in school. Inuzuka was an undisciplined thug, and he had 4 underlings under him. Even Sona, who everyone knew to be a class act. "What do you and your pretty pink ponies want, Pickle Puss?" asked Naruto, switching to his trash-talking wrestler persona. It also didn't help that in another life Naruto was called the Prankster King from Hell. Kiba and his buddies grit their teeth in anger, but Kiba quickly gains a smirk. "You are talking a lot of shit considering Akino dumped your ass." A hush fell over the yard. Despite Naruto and Akino's rumored breakup, no one knew the truth. Tsubaki had talked to Akino and all but confirmed it, and even expressed her own interest in Naruto. Of course, Naruto had no way to know all of this. He had been gone for 2 weeks. One of Kiba's goons finally noticed Eve and blushed looking at her. He was honestly surprised that it took so long to notice such a cutie. While not anywhere near the beauty of the great ladies, she was probably as cute as Kaneko. Her static expression was something to fall in love with. He slicked back his hair and walked up to Eve. "Hey there, baby. You're kind of cute. How about you come and hang with us?" said the goon, looking at Eve's budding breasts. Naruto's face clouded over as he left his verbal sparring match with Kiba. "Get the hell away from Eve before I put my size 12 boot up your narrow ass," said Naruto. Kiba got in front of Naruto. "Hey, now let's leave the new couple alone. I'm sure they'll get along great," said Inuzuka. "Hang out?" asked Eve, tilting her head to the side. The boy grinned. "Don't worry, me and the boys can teach you how to hang out. Such a pretty little thing you are," said the boy as he reached up to touch Eve's face. Before his hand could touch her face, a hand gripped his in a steel trap. The boy groaned in pain as if he was trying to act tough, but many people often underestimated Gaara's strength. For some reason, the smaller boy had a high grip strength. "I may not know Valfrid-san well, but she is important to my friend, so I will protect her," said Gaara. "Are you stupid or something? It's 5 on 2. You have no chance," growled Kiba. "Then it's a good thing that Naruto and I are both worth at least 10 men each, while you are only worth half a man where it matters." Eve smiled. "I think they call that a burn." Naruto smirked and patted her head. "I'll make a smart ass out of you yet, Eve, my dear." Kiba looked at Eve and growled. "I'll show you, you little bitch." Before Kiba even got within spitting distance of Eve, Naruto kicked Kiba with a no-setup sweet chin music that sent him backwards. That shot alone rattled him, but it wasn't enough to knock him out. The only problem was that it was a setup. See, Naruto knew how strong his kick was. He had once knocked out B with it during training. Not a lucky shot. A full-powered kick that B said he could take. No, Naruto only wanted to stun Kiba. He was going to leave the finish to his best friend. Naruto wasn't I and B's only student. Gaara, he had managed, spun Kiba around by his shoulder as he jumped into the air, grabbing Kiba by his neck and head. From there, gravity did the rest and pulled Gaara down to earth with Kiba's body following suit. They both came to the ground with Kiba's neck taking the brunt of the damage, with his face hitting concrete, nearly knocking him cold. "Enough!" yelled a voice that caught everyone's attention. It was Tsubaki, and a blonde-haired boy he wasn't anything to be intimidated by. If anything, Naruto would have to be careful when dealing with him. While he didn't have proof, Naruto had to assume that everyone who was close to Sona and Tsubaki were devils. Who was closer to the student council president than the student council members? Although this was still just speculation on Naruto's part. "Hey, this asshole started it," growled Kiba as he was helped up by his friends, his nose busted and bleeding. Tsubaki closed her mismatched eyes. "Inuzuka-san, you insulated Uzumaki-san, and your friend attempted to touch Uzumaki-san's cousin without consent. That alone should have him brought up on criminal charges." He and Sabuka-san were well in their rights to defend themselves from aggressors such as yourselves. If you still have a problem, you can take it up with me, said Saji, crossing his arms. Kiba snorted. Whatever takes us to the queen bitch so we can get detention or whatever, said Kiba. Tsubaki turned to the rest of the students and frowned. Show's over, go about your day. After everyone broke up, Saji led the boys to Sona's office while Gaara checked to make sure Eve was okay. Tsubaki walked up to Naruto and the others. Naruto looked at her and caught the faint whiff of cinnamon from her. Are you alright, Uzumaki-kun? Asked Tsubaki. I wanted to speak with you, but I didn't expect it to be like this. Naruto frowned at her. He knew she was a devil. For her to come up to him and just talk seemed to go against most of the things that Azazel told Naruto. Should you really be talking to me like this? After all, you are a bat and I'm a crow, said Naruto using the universal code language. My master has no such problems with what you are. In fact, she has given me her blessing to court you. Unlike your, I guess she sees no issues with it. Sona has never been one to turn down a golden opportunity, said Tsubaki. Are you sure? Asked Naruto. Tsubaki smiled. Positive. She would like to meet with you and talk with you about our courting. As she is my master, she is overall responsible for my safety, said Tsubaki. Lead the way, said Naruto. Tsubaki grabbed Naruto's arm and pulled it between her breasts. The blonde-haired fallen angel blushed at her actions. Please follow me, Uzumaki-kun. I will escort you to Lady Sona, said the heterochromatic devil. Not far away from all of this, Akino looked at the location Tsubaki and Naruto just were from around the corner. If one was to look closely, the edge of the concrete pillar where she was standing had deep scratch marks on it. Location: Ko Academy. Place: Student Council Room. Time: 0720. Sona sat in the Student Council office going over Student Council business as well as Ko Town's supernatural paperwork. Sona sometimes hated how much work she had to do. Her analytical mind and eye for detail made it quite a bit trivial matter. However, because of the amount of work she did, Sona ever only got 4 hours of sleep within a 24-hour period with a 10-minute nap thrown in every 6 hours. Majority of her peerage still had human attachments, so they still had their human needs, or rather they were built into them. It was actually one of the reasons that the devils invested in an artificial sky that turned from day to night instead of eternal night. The door to the room opened and Tsubaki walked in with Naruto right behind her. Tsubaki bowed to Sona. Lady Sona, as requested, I have brought Uzumaki-san to speak to you. I have also told him of my intentions to court him, said Tsubaki. You don't waste any time, said Sona. Tsubaki smiled. Well, I don't want to become a great witch like you intend to be, said Tsubaki. Sona frowned before smiling. You know that only someone who is on my level mentally will lay with me. So what about you and me? Asked Naruto, looking at the vice president. Saturday at 1100. You met me at the Ko Town Plaza, and we will go from there, said Tsubaki as she stepped out and closed the door. Do you play chess, Uzumaki-san? Asked Sona. Not really. My grandfather taught me the basics, but I'm not very good, said Naruto. Sona smiled. I find it a good way to pass the time during a talk. Please take a seat, said Sona. Naruto took a seat across from Sona. She was playing as white and Naruto as black. Sona grabbed a pawn and moved it forward. So what do you really want? Asked Naruto, using a knight to leap over a pawn. Nothing. Having a fallen angel that owes me a favor could be useful, said Sona as she moved a bishop. What makes you think I owe you a favor? Asked Naruto. No reason, but I think that my lovely Tsubaki-chan has taken a shine to you and I plan on getting everything I can out of her. You sound like a high-class pimp if that's the case, said Naruto, moving a rook. Sona chuckled. If I really wanted to, I could tell Tsubaki to drop out of school and go earn me money on the nearest corner. She'd gladly suck a few filthy cocks for a few dollars. If you ask nice, I'll even sell her to you, said Sona. Something is wrong with you devils if you can do that to your servants, said Naruto, taking a knight with a pawn. Sona shrugged as she took the knight, using her queen. That's all she is. A servant who fulfills my every desire. It's her purpose after all. Naruto gripped his rook before he took note of the situation. She was beating him into a reaction. But why? The chessboard, the pieces, the way she worded things. Naruto placed his piece and calmed himself. He didn't want to give this woman more ammo than she already had. You're good at mental games, Sona-san, but please be mindful that I'm not one of those idiotic simps who worship the ground you walk on. I may not be a member of the Gigori, but I'll kick your ass if you ever try to play me again, said Naruto. Sona looked at Naruto in his eyes. The duo stared at each other for a moment, before Sona smiled. Very well, Uzumaki-san. Please take care of Tsubaki. She's very dear to me, also know this. I'm not Rias and won't jump the gun but hurt Tsubaki and I'll freeze you, said Sona. Naruto nodded before he picked up his rook and moved it one last time before he rose. Have a nice day, Sona-san. A white-hired girl opened the door for Naruto, allowing him and Eve to leave. As they did, Sona looked at the chessboard, specifically at the rook that Naruto had moved. Sona picked up her bishop. The one that she was going to move had Naruto gone through with his move, and that's how she knew that she was in danger. His second rook had a clear shot at her queen 2 squares away from her king, and 1 row away from the back row. 2 moves to draw, 1 move to checkmate. Oh Rias, you were looking for a pawn and lost a knight in your future battle, thought the Citri heiress couldn't stop the smirk that appeared on her face. Location, Ko Town. Place, Mall. Time, 2000. So does the uniform fit alright, Eve-chan? Asked Naruto. The duo had just finished getting Eve's uniform tailored to fit her. She already had her class schedule, and was allowed a little leeway with the uniform. Thankfully, the mall had a tailor that was contracted with the school to help with the uniforms. After taking her measurements, the seamstress was able to get the proper clothes and modify them in record time. While they waited, the duo had dinner at a cafe and did their homework. It was a popular hangout for students of Go, one that Naruto knew well from his time with Akino. They're alright. Although I don't like how it shows off my legs. I wish the skirt was longer, said Eve with a frown as she looked at the bag in her hand. Naruto and Eve were walking home and stopped. Standing before them was Inuzuka Kiba. Naruto dropped his backpack and removed his jacket. You here for another beating? Asked Naruto. Kiba laughed at Naruto. Only it wasn't a light-hearted one. It was slightly deranged, someone who planned to hurt someone else. He didn't bother saying anything. Instead, Kiba got into a low stance and charged at Naruto, raising his hands, before he rushed at Naruto with a speed that Naruto was sure that he didn't have. Kiba thrust his hand forward, and the light caught the black of his nails. Naruto fell backward onto the ground and onto his hands before using all his power to thrust his feet into Kiba's stomach, or he tried to, but Kiba managed to cross his arms, displacing a lot of the impact power. Even with a lot of the power gone, there was still enough to send Kiba skyward. Kiba did a few backflips and landed on the ground, and shook out his arms. So, this is the power of a fallen angel. I always wanted to test myself, said Kiba, standing tall. Naruto frowned. You know what a fallen angel is? Kiba laughed as he flexed his hand and grew inch-long claws and white hair to grow around his forearms. Course I do. After all, I smelled your corrupted light the second you stepped into Ko today. I'm surprised the devils defended your sorry ass. I'm not affiliated with the fallen angel faction, but if it's an ass-kicking you want, I can put my boots to your ass, said Naruto. You're not going to catch a werewolf. Our speed makes us faster than even a devil's knight, said Kiba. Eve stepped back. This wasn't her fight, but if Kiba looked like he would hurt her cousin, then she would jump in and finish him herself. She was the demon after all. Naruto frowned as he grabbed his glasses and put them on. You trying to race or fight? Asked Naruto as his boots appeared. Race, fight, play tic-tac-toe. You can't beat me, Uzumaki. I'm an S-ranked monster. Naruto smirked. Then let's shorten the world. Radical good speed, said Naruto. 2. Reve. Naruto and Kiba rushed at each other and threw out a punch. Naruto and Kiba's attacks connected with each other's cheeks. Kiba had a bit more power in his attack, but Naruto was quicker to recover. Spinning slightly, Naruto jumped into the air and activated air platform. While he was in the air, he held out his hand and formed a spear of light. Naruto's speak of light was orange. Naruto threw it at Kiba with the intent to impale him. Kiba snorted and thought that Naruto was an idiot for trying to catch him with something so slow. Kiba managed to get inside of Naruto's defenses and slash his back with his claws. Naruto yelled in pain as he rolled forward and came around with a jumping toe kick to Kiba's face. Kiba growled as he opened his mouth and grabbed his throat. Wolf Howl, yelled Kiba, unleashing a blast of energized air. The attack rushed at Naruto, but before it could hit, Eve appeared before Naruto with her hand raised, before said hand turned into a big metal shield. The blast hit the shield and dispersed. Take him out, Naruto, yelled Eve. Reve. Naruto smirked. No problem. Naruto vanished and appeared in front of Naruto and kicked him in the chin, sending him flying. Naruto grabbed Kiba, before pulling him towards an outstretched arm. Lariat! Yelled Naruto, hitting Kiba right across the throat. Kiba was turned inside out by this attack and landed on his back, gasping in pain. Reve! Naruto appeared behind Kiba and wrapped his head up in a half Nelson before flying into the air as high as he could. While it didn't seem like much, Naruto knew that Kiba was at a huge disadvantage. Werewolves by nature were ground dwellers. They hated being away from the ground. Their power came from the connection to the earth. Naruto began to spin as fast as he could. Drilling air throw! Yelled Naruto as he threw Kiba into the ground. Kiba slammed into the ground. Naruto spun around and raised his left into the air, as lavender-colored energy burst from his raised leg. Crank! Now for the finisher. Crescent Moon Axe! Yelled Naruto. The kick landed on the ground, panting as Eve came over and helped him up. Naruto looked at Kiba and smirked at the downed werewolf. Take that, Muttley, said Naruto. Geez, you really did a number on the runt, came a female voice. Eve and Naruto got into a defensive stance as a figure walked out of the shadows. It was a young woman. She was slightly shorter than Naruto, and she seemed to have a bit of a wild beauty to her in a MILF-type way. D-cup breasts, wild brown hair and slit eyes. She wore a brown vest that was zipped up to just under her breasts, a pair of skin-tight pants, and slip-on shoes. Who are you? Asked Eve, prepared to defend her cousin. The woman chuckled. I'm Kiba's mother and alpha of the Inuzuka pack. Inuzukatsu. Which is only me, my kids, my husband, and his brother. Anyway, the kid has needed his ass kicked for a while now, said Sum, picking up Kiba and throwing him over her shoulder. You're not mad? Asked Naruto. Nah. Werewolves love a good fight. We always want to challenge the person nearest our level, the stronger the better. As much as I like talking to you two runts, I'm taking this idiot home. Catch you around, said Sum as she vanished without a sound. That woman is terrifying, said Eve. Naruto nodded before he and Eve left the. As Eve helped Naruto away, either noticed a small serpent-like creature who had watched the entire battle. Location: Ko Town. Place: Uzumaki Residence / Edding Tides Restaurant. Time: 1930. Ouch. Can you be a bit more gentle on my poor back, Mitone? Yelled Naruto. I would, but what dumbass gets into a fight with a werewolf? Yelled Mito as she gained a tick mark, before slapping bandages on Naruto's back. Yee! Naruto-kun isn't a dumbass, said Eve. Thank you, Eve-chan, yelled Naruto. He just doesn't have any sense of self-preservation whatsoever, said Eve. Naruto began to cry while Mito laughed. As fun as it is to fun of my idiot son, I didn't realize that there were werewolves in Ko, said Minato. Same. Vampires, devils, beast tamers, and yokai, but not werewolves, said Kushina. I don't get it, what's with the werewolves and why didn't you know? Asked Naruto. It's more because werewolves have no magic to speak up, they fall into the same category as regular humans. I guess you could call it virus that turns into a disease, but not one that's detrimental to the individual. After a while it just becomes a familial trait. They become naturally strong, fast, their senses, especially their hearing and smell, is off the charts. And then there's their ability to transform into their full wolf form. That reminded Naruto of something Kiba said. Hey, while I was fighting, Kiba claimed he was an S-ranked monster? What is that about? Asked Naruto. Oh, that. Honestly, I normally wouldn't bother with that. It's the ranking system that is usually accepted. I'll give you an example. Devils go by low, mid, high, noble, super, and ultimate. Or like our own winged ranking system. Monsters and yokai find the FSS rank class system simpler, said the red-haired chef as she fixed her hair into a tight bun. What rank are we in the monster ranking system? Asked Naruto. Fallen angels are considered S-ranked alongside devils, angels, vampires, and some classes of yokai. The only SS-ranked creatures are gods and heavenly dragons. Then we have to go into the top strongest beings, but aside from position 1 and 2 the rest are kinda up in the air and open for interpretation, said Mito. Naruto rubbed his head. All this information dumb is a bit of a headache. Where are you two heading? Asked Naruto. We're heading to a conference for the Greater Senju Foundation. We'll be gone for a day or two, said Minato. You kids behave. Oh, and Mito is in charge, said Kushina as Minato opened the door as he and Kushina left. If they are going to be gone for several days, what are they going to do? Asked Eve. Make out and make babies probably, said Mito. I don't need to hear about my parents fucking Mito. How about we make out instead, said Naruto with a smirk. Not in front of Eve, I'm not. Maybe another day. Besides, you still owe me 3 dates before we do anything more than kiss, said Mito, crossing her arms under her breasts. Naruto, Mito, and Eve sat playing games on the family Switch. Despite not really being on it a lot due to his training and formerly dating Akino, Naruto didn't have a lot of time to play it, but he did indulge in the games from time to time. The phone on the desk began to ring. Naruto picked it up and saw that it was the old bastard. Yo, old man. Any reason you are calling 1-800? I'm about to whoop your candy. As if this isn't good, said Naruto, frowning. Hey Naruto, listen, I need a huge favor, said Azazel. What? Yelled Naruto. I'm already doing your deadbeat ass a favor by watching you and Tearju's fake love child. What else could your perverted ass want? Oh, nothing much. Just make sure your aunt and her idiot friends don't jump the gun and kick off the next great war while keeping your ex-girlfriend's master from killing her. You know, small potatoes. Naruto wanted to scream. Location, Ko Town. Place, random overpass bridge. Time, 1900. The sun was setting on the day. On the overpass bridge, 2 young people stood there. As cars passed underneath, one of the figures felt like this couldn't really be happening to him, while the girl looked like she was struggling to express herself aside from the blush on her face. A brown-haired boy who wore the clothes of Ko Academy's boys' uniform that was open, revealing a red shirt underneath. This young man was Haida Issei, the leader of Ko Academy's famous perverted trio. He wasn't a bad guy. A bit obsessed with breasts, but overall, not too bad, and it was a bit funny because some girls considered him cute, while others just considered him annoying. He also happened to have a semi-friendship with the school's best fighter. So long as he wasn't found perving on any of the girls. The girl across from him was beautiful. An attractive young woman with violet eyes, and a curvaceous, slender body with breasts that could give Akino a run for her money. She had long, silky black hair that reached down to her hips. Wearing a dark red jacket with the letter P embroidered in gold, a white undershirt, a red bow, and a green skirt with a thin white strip around the lower end. White thigh-high socks, and a pair of black shoes. Hey there, said Issei. The girl blushed and looked away. Hello there. Can I ask you something? Asked the girl. Sure, go for it, said Issei. Please go on a date with me, said the girl, closing her eyes and throwing her fists up. Issei instantly thought that he had hit the jackpot. After spending the last year getting rejected and just peeking at the kendo club girls, the co-captains of said club, Issei would admit he wondered if they were lesbians or would share a boyfriend. Either way, he wanted to find out. It didn't help that there were rumors that they had been seen kissing each other in the kendo club. With his 2 friends and their rather open perverted attendances, especially Matsuda, who Issei was worried would do something really drastic. He thought that he would never have a chance with the girls, especially since he was labeled a pervert. In truth, Issei was just overly hormonal compared to other boys his age. At least that was his thoughts until last week. He started to see a girl around Ko. It was on the train the first time he saw her. It wasn't anything major, just them locking eyes. Issei didn't believe in love at first sight, but he would admit that he was taken aback by her looks. If anything, she could compete with Himejima-san in the looks department. Sure, but we don't even know each other's names, said Issei, rubbing the back of his head while trying not to stare at the young woman's chest. The girl's eyes shot open as her hands flew to her mouth. Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Yuma. Amano Yuma, said the girl. Issei smiled. That's a very lovely name, said Issei. So will you go out with me? Asked Yuma. Yuma smiled before she walked up to Issei and kissed him on the cheek. Great. I'll see you Saturday at the Ko Town Fountain Plaza at 11. Don't be late, said Yuma as she ran off. All too easy. A little shyness here, a batting of eyelashes there, and the right clothes and you have them eating out of your hands. Good job, Raineir, thought Yuma, wanting to laugh. As Raineir ran away from Issei and disappeared down the stairs, she took off before she rounded the corner of an alley and stopped dead in her tracks. Standing against the wall still in uniform was her nephew. Raineir was well aware that this was perfect little Kushina's son. You deserve an Oscar for that award performance. The best female manipulating a horned-up teen role goes to you, Aunt Raineir. By the way, Heaven's Evening Day's nice touch with the name, said Naruto, removing his shades and placing them on top of his head. Yuma frowned as she crossed her arms and leaned on the wall. Oh, if it isn't father's newest grandson and pet project? What are you doing here, Naruto? asked Raineir. Raineir was the youngest of all of Azazel's kids. She was only 20 years old, but in fallen angel terms she might as well have been a kid. She also wasn't in her true form. Because of her sin of desire, she tended to walk around in the body of her teenage self. It was her preferred form unless she was in combat. Even then it made no real difference other than her clothes and height. "Keeping an eye on you by the request of the old man," said Naruto as he reached into his back and pulled out a bottle of water, before guzzling it down. Raineir snorted before she kicked off the wall and tried to walk away. "Bug off, kid. Go play at school or something. I'm doing real work here." "By real work, you mean fucking over that perv without giving up the goods. Give him blue balls and all that mess," said Naruto, knowing that anything that Raineir did with Issei wouldn't end well. "My team and I don't need a babysitter," growled Raineir. Naruto grabbed her by her wrist and threw her into the wall, not hard, but enough to let her know she wasn't leaving. Naruto slammed his hand next to her face. Naruto had always wanted to try the wall slam confessional, but not like this. He always pictured it to be more romantic bot business. Especially with a woman who was technically his aunt, although with how far out the bloodline was removed, they could hardly be related. "I want you to do that to me," said Gria, teasing her host. "Not now, Gria, I'm kinda working," thought Naruto without breaking eye contact with Raineir. "I didn't hear a no," said Gria. "Azazel disagrees," said Naruto, ignoring his partner. "Hey, what the hell are you doing? You trying to fuck me or something?" asked Raineir, hoping that Naruto would be a blushing virgin and let her go. Sadly for her, Naruto wasn't so weak-willed to fall for it. "He told me about your mission," said Naruto, completely serious. Raineir froze upon hearing this. Raineir and her team had been told that they were supposed to observe Haidu Issei. During his brief stay a few weeks about, he said he felt a massive draconic force within Kuo, while dormant dragons unleashed periodic bursts of energy. Over the course of time, when they are close to waking up, orders came down through the chain to find and watch the source of the energy. However, a note had been written by one of the cadres. "If the dragon shows signs of waking or the devils take an interest in recruiting the wielder, eliminate them." Raineir looks away and grit her teeth. "What would you have me do?" asked Raineir. Naruto pulled away. "Lucky for you, I also have a date Saturday. We'll meet at the fountain and talk about it there." "Oh, my date is a devil and I expect you to play nice with her," said Naruto with a smile. The dark-haired beauty glared at him. "Who the hell do you think you are to order me around?" yelled Raineir. Naruto summoned a light sword and held the tip to Raineir's throat. Raineir swallowed hard as her legs shook in fear. She hadn't detected a hint of malice in his actions, so for him to attack her and nearly kill her in a split second should have made her worry about how strong this kid was after Azazel's training. No, she was stronger than this kid. "Azazel Gigi told me how strong-headed you are and how you crave his approval after refusing to go into the administration. He's not mad at you for following your own path, but he won't allow you to do anything that could lead to another war. He loves you and Raineir, but he'll sacrifice even his own kids to keep everyone safe," said Naruto. "How could I taking out that little perv lead to a what? Hell, he'd probably get a boner seeing my real clothes and form." Naruto took the sword away from her throat. "Remember what I said, Raineir," said Naruto as he took off. Once Naruto was away, Raineir rubbed her neck. "Asshole didn't hand to hold a knife to my throat," said Raineir. Location: Ko Town/Ko Academy. Place: Student Council Office. Time: 2120. Sona sat across from Rias looking at the chessboard. Behind the duo were their respective queens as well as one other person acting as their bodyguard. For Rias it was Kiba and for Sona it was her newest pawn, Saji. "Are you ready to go over the people who would make good peerage members?" asked Rias as she moved a pawn. "Of course. There are quite a few candidates that I like," said Sona. So, they went down the list from the Kendo Club co-captains to the vice-captain of the kickboxing team, Mio, who was one of the strongest girls in the school. Mio's inclusion was a bit annoying to Akino since the young girl tended to hover around Naruto like a lost puppy when she was in the club room. Oh, how that little bitch used to annoy Akino when she would visit and watch her ex-boyfriend, she had to remind herself. "What about Haidu Issei?" said Rias as she moved her pawn and took a bishop. "The leader of the perverted trio? What's so special about him?" asked Sona as she moved her queen into a checkmate position. Rias sighed as she tipped her king over. Kaneko is sure that she sensed a scared deer on the boy. "Not sure what kind, but she was sure that it felt like a dragon," said Rias. "That doesn't narrow it down that much. There are over 100 gears that have some type of dragon affinity to them," said Sona. So will you take him? Asked Rias. Sona put her head in her open palm and seemed to think about it for a few minutes. It looks like the Gremry ability comes in clutch for you. I won't be taking him as it would disrupt the balance that I'm going for in my peerage, said Sona. Great. Now that all the work-related stuff is out of the way, do you truly intend to allow Tsubaki-ken to go on a date with a fallen angel? Asked Rias. The friendly atmosphere of the room quickly became tense. I have given both Tsubaki-chan and Naruto my blessing to court. I've even sent in the necessary paperwork to both my father and my sister. If anything comes from their union, I am prepared. My hope is for there to be a devil that can use light magic, said Sona. Tsubaki blushed. I'm not sure how far our union would go, milady, said Tsubaki. Nonsense. Although someone of Akino's patronize would have a higher chance of such a child with all the powers of a devil and few weaknesses, said Sona. I am not a political tool, growled Akino. Akino-chan has no desire to get back with Naruto, and as her king, I will not force her, no matter how good it might be for devilkind in the long run, said Rias. The council might have something to say about it, said Sona. Rias slammed her hand on the table. The council can kiss my ass. I won't let them come after my people because of something we didn't know. Sona narrowed her eyes. You acted rashly, and instead of analyzing the situation, you just acted like a barbarian. Ladies, perhaps this conversation is getting a bit too heated, said Kiba. Kiba-kun is right. We have more important things to focus on, like Tsubaki's upcoming date, said Rias. The glasses queen looked at her fellow queen. You don't have a problem with me going on a date with your ex-boyfriend, do you? Asked Tsubaki, already knowing the answer. Akino grit her teeth. Do what you want. If you want to spread your legs for a damn crow, then go right ahead, yelled Akino. Tsubaki narrowed her eyes before a smile crept onto her face. Didn't you spread your legs for him? I seem to remember that you had no problem bragging about how Naruto-kun split me in half with his large foot-long, thick as 3 fingers bitch breaker. He stuffed me so full. I wish he didn't wear condoms. I bet cream pies would feel great. I'm sure that you could have gotten cream pied if you didn't attack him. Kiba and Saji both blushed but didn't say anything. Despite their position, neither wanted to be in the middle of a catfight. Watch your mouth, bitch, or I'll rip your tongue out from your throat, yelled Akino, her purple eyes widening. Akino, stand down, hissed Rias. Tsubaki, that's enough, said Sona with a blush on her cheeks. Tsubaki looked at her mistress and bowed. I apologize, my lady, but I wanted to remind Himejima-san about her own rather lewd retelling of her nights with Uzumaki-kun. Her words were always to that effect. Leave it alone, Tsubaki. What I had with Naruto-kun is dead, said Akino. If it's as dead as you say, then why did I find you pleasuring yourself to his picture in the changing room after gym class yesterday? Asked Tsubaki. I was horny and he's the best-looking guy around, said Akino unconvincingly. Something along those lines. Even if he is a fallen, I have no intention of, how did you put it? Spreading my leg open for him after only one date. I have standards, said Tsubaki. Akino turned and stormed out of the room. Kiba sighed as his senpai left the room, but he knew that his place was with Rias. Rias sighed. We'll have to do this again soon, Sona, but please let's leave the insults and politics out of it. Sona smiled. No promises, Rias. I myself find Uzumaki-kun quite attractive, and if he does end up with Tsubaki, well, harems aren't devils, only ways of showing status and power. I'm sure that he wouldn't have a problem with a polygamous relationship, said Sona. Rias looked at Sona and snorted. He's only a tool used by those stronger than him, said Rias, standing up and leaving the room. If that's what you believe. I wish you a good night, Rias, said Sona. Location, Ko Academy. Place, Edding Tides. Time, 2230. Edding Tides currently doesn't have any customers. Minato, Mito, and Eve were currently out gathering items for Eve, and Minato teaching Mito to drive. Apparently, Minato had always wanted a little girl, so he was spoiling them rotten, threatening any boyfriends they would have and the like. Kushina and Naruto were cooking some ramen together. Or rather, it was the Uzumaki special. A ramen that was a staple of the Edding Tides restaurant, but most people didn't seem to take to the ramen. However, it was something that Naruto and Kushina enjoyed making and eating together. They often made a big pot that could feed 20 people. As Naruto cut the limp noodles so that were to be thrown into the broth, he couldn't help but think back over the last couple of weeks. He was nearly killed, found out about his girlfriends and her pals' secret lives as devils, found out about his heritage as a fallen angel, found out that 4 of the most important people in her life were fallen angels, discovered that he had a female dragon attack to a pseudo-god killing weapon in the form of boots, and met his great ×3 grandfather. And that was only within the first 24 hours of his new reality. Following that, he spent the next 2 weeks with Azazel training to learn about his new powers and abilities. Learned that he was the new cousin of an artificial human named Eve. A joke Azazel said was used to directly spite his old man. Then when he came home, he barely saw his mom or dad for more than a few minutes. Oh, and he got into a fight with a werewolf. So yeah, he hadn't exactly had time to speak to his mother lately. And it's not like his parents had ever lied to him before. They were always stern but loving. Well, more stern on Kushina's side, since she believed that Naruto needed to have the discipline to kick someone's ass. "Are you going to ask her?" asked Gria. "Yeah. In for a penny, in for a pound, and Uzumaki never backs down." Gria nodded as a go fight go flag appeared in her hand. "Good luck, Uzumaki-kun, I'm rooting for you." "Hey Kachan, I have something I want to ask you," said Naruto as he watched the shrimp boil, after cutting and cleaning them. "What is it, honey?" asked Kushina as she stirred the broth while adding the spices. "Why didn't you ever tell me about the supernatural?" asked Naruto. Kushina stopped her stirring and turned to her son. "It's been a little over 3 weeks. I was wondering when you'd ask me about that," said Kushina with a sigh. Naruto leaned on the table. "At first I was really mad about it, you know. I mean, my girlfriend and her friends tried to kill me, the majority of my family ended up being angels, and I have a superpower that most people never see. So yeah, I was really confused. First, ex-girlfriend. I'm pretty sure trying to kill you gives her the designation of ex. Second, we are fallen angels. Third, we never told you because you didn't have powers. No wings, no sacred gear, nothing," said Kushina. Naruto looked at his mother with wide eyes. "What?" asked Naruto. It was moments like this that Kushina wished she still smoked. "Yeah. You were born without the abilities of a fallen angel, or Minato's own ability to use human sealing arts. Aside from the fact that you were never once sick in your life and above average human strength, we figured that you were going to live your life as a human, marry a human, and die a human," said Kushina, gaining a sad smile on her face. Naruto looked at his mother and realized something terrible. The thought of his and Minato's death had always been in the back of her mind. Kushina could live for up to 1,000 years or more, while Naruto and Minato would die if they were lucky at the age of 120. 1/10 the life she could live. While she would always have Azazel, Tsunade, Shizen, and Mito, she would lose both the love of her life and her child. "Can you forgive me for being a foolish mother for keeping secrets from you?" asked Kushina, looking away from her son. She was silently dreading this conversation as well as the outcome. Would he hate her? Would he never speak to her again? Would he hit her? Would he never speak to her again? Whatever his reaction, she would accept it. The last thing she expected was to have a pair of arms wrap her in a warm embrace. Kushina's eyes snapped open as she looked at her son, who she only now realized how he towered over her. Naruto smiled as he "I love you, Kachan, and nothing will change that." Azazel's theory was that the blood had diluted so far after 5 generations that blood, aside from a few benefits, I'd be the last fallen angel of the Uzumaki bloodline unless I decided to have a child with another man besides your father. He's actually surprised that I'm a 10-winged fallen when those before me barely made it to 6. Even Azazel's own son. My 2 ex-great-grandfather, said Kushina, gaining a sad look. "So, what happened to the previous greats and grands?" asked Naruto. "Dead. Not sure how, but most of them died. My own father was in my life up until just 3 years before you were born," said Kushina, shrugging. Naruto tilted his head at his mother's callous speech about her own father. Then again, he never met the man, so it was hard to care about him. "Come on, let's finish the ramen and eat," said Kushina with a smile. Naruto smiled back at his mother and nodded to her. Location: Ko Town. Place: Edding Tide / Uzumaki Residence. Time: 1000. Eve puffed out her cheeks as she looked at Mitone, who helped Naruto and I get ready for a date. While Eve was young, she was incredibly smart. However, for as smart as she was also socially inept. She knew that male sperm was needed to fertilize female eggs in order to reproduce. So, the concept of dating eluded her. Maybe it was a form of selecting the proper mate to produce the best offspring. Even if Eve scientifically understood this, she was still a bit annoyed that her Nichan was going on a date when he should have been hanging out with her and Mito. Although she had to admit that the skinny black chinos and orange shirt with white shoes looked good on him. "No fair. I want to go on a date with Naruto too," pouted Eve, turning away from the duo. Mito smiled. "Same. So, Naruto, when am I going to get that date? Asked Mito. Naruto smirked. I'll take you out tomorrow since Ka-chan has no training plans for you. Mito smiled. Fair's fair, Naruto, I can clear my training easily since Kushina-sensei wants grandbabies sooner rather than later. What about me? Asked Eve. What about you, Shrimp? Most guys aren't interested in mosquito bites. Laughed Mito as she ruffled Eve's hair. Eve glared at the older girl. The pair had developed something of a sibling rivalry. Naruto considered it almost supernatural how fast the duo had bonded when they weren't teasing each other or trying to get Naruto's attention. They could actually be found just hanging out. Of course, they had barely known each other for a week and there was a lot that could make this budding relationship go south fast. How about I take you to the amusement park next Friday night? Amusement park? Asked Eve. 1. The blonde-haired boy smirked at the younger girl. That's right. A park that's designed to keep people entertained. A roller coaster, a Ferris wheel, and all kinds of games and prizes. It will be awesome, said Naruto. Eve thought about it for a second before she got up and kissed Naruto on the cheek. It's a deal. And I'd better have fun or else, said Eve as she turned her hair into a blade and held it to his junk. Naruto began to sweat and nod his head as fast as he could. Mito laughed at her sensei's son. No matter what Eve thought, Mito was sure that she would love the girl as a friend and sister till the end of all. Location: Ko Town. Place: Fountain Plaza Mall. Time: 1050. The Ko Town Fountain Plaza was as busy as ever on this bright Saturday morning. Of course, Issei really wasn't a morning person. Even though it was already 11 o'clock a.m. Already several people were walking around the area. Couples, groups of friends, and even people on trips. Issei would have preferred to be out with his boys. His mom had managed to pick out some decent clothes for him. A long-sleeved spin skirt, a cream-colored button-up shirt, gray pants, and red sneakers. A slap on his back brought him out of his thoughts. What's up, king of perverts? Said Naruto with a smirk. Issei paled as he looked at Naruto. While Issei and Naruto weren't really friends, they didn't have a problem with each other. Issei feared that Naruto used him and his bros as target practice for their peeping ways. Issei could hold a conversation of the young man from Class 2C. The only point of contention between them was that Naruto seemed to hate perverts. Or rather, he hated open perverts. It also didn't help that Issei had peeped of Mio while she was changing. Issei was sure that one of his balls was still missing from the beating that he revived that day. What could he do? She had a pair of knockers the same size as Akino-senpai's. He just had to see Yuma's melons. Naruto-san, what are you doing here? Asked Issei. I have a date with Tsubaki today, Issei, said Naruto. Issei looked at Naruto with a frown. It's bad enough you dated Himejima-senpai, but now you've stolen the vice president's heart like the shitty bastard you are, said Issei. Hayate-san, I hope that you're not causing problems for my date, came Tsubaki's voice. Naruto and Issei turned around and both were treated to a rare sight. Tsubaki's hair was done up in a tight bun, almost as tight as her behind was. Her clothes were simple. A blue ruffled skirt, a long-sleeved pink shirt, and quarter heels. Hanging from her side was a small clutch bag. Naruto whistled. Dang, Tsubaki-chan, you clean up nice, said Naruto, giving her a once-over. The queen of the Citri peerage blushed and looked away. Thank you, Naruto-san. Of course, I always try to look my best as a representative of Ko Academy, said Tsubaki. Issei-kun! Yelled Yuma, running towards them. Yuma wore a short black dress with a small, light purple jacket on top. When she finally got up to the trio, she bent over panting. Sorry I'm late, said Yuma as she looked at Issei. She did a quick look at the others. Who are your friends, Issei, and are you going to introduce them to me? Issei looked at Yuma, trying hard not to ogle her. Right, Yuma-chan. This is Uzumaki Naruto, captain of the kickboxing team, and Shinra Tsubaki, the student. Hello, Uzumaki-senpai, Tsubaki-san, said Yuma, bowing in greeting. Tsubaki moved her glasses. It's quite a foolish thing to do to make a date wait longer than 5 minutes, Miss Yuma, said Tsubaki. Yuma nervously laughed. Sorry if I don't seem desperate to impress my date. Issei is just cool like that, Tsubaki-san. An aura appeared around the two girls as they looked at each other. Issei was about to walk forward and try to separate them, but Naruto stopped him with a shake of his head. Well, since we're all here, how about we make it a double date? Asked Yuma, smiling at the others. That's not too bad an idea, said Naruto. I agree to it as well, so long as Yuma-san doesn't try anything, said Tsubaki. Yuma laughed. You're funny, Tsubaki-san. As if I would waste my time messing with you or Naruto-san. The group then spent their day doing a variety of activities from shopping to eating, to going to the movies. All in all, it was an amazing day for the group. They walked the entire plaza area. The entire time they were out, Yuma and Tsubaki seemed to try to outdo each other, but before long they seemed to get along great. After a few hours, they found themselves back at the fountain. The evening sun bathed the floor in a nice light. The wind blowing was a nice touch as well. As Tsubaki and Yuma, Issei couldn't help but reflect on the day. He had managed to spend the day with two of the coolest people in his school, the girl who he was sure was the coolest at her school. He had managed to control himself. Naruto placed a hand on Issei's shoulder. This tore his gaze away from the two girls who were sitting on the fountain and slashing each other with water and laughing like they had been good friends for years. You have to cherish moments like this, Issei. No matter how small. Sometimes life can throw unexpected curve balls at you, said Naruto. Issei smiled as he zeroed in on the chest of Yuma. Oh, I am Naruto-senpai, said Issei, only to get hit in the back of the head. Stop thinking with your dick for a second and appreciate life, man, said Naruto. Issei looked at the girls and this time managed to repress his urge to look at them with eyes of lust. All he saw was two girls having fun. The plaza was fairly empty today. Then Tsubaki seemed to say something to Yuma, making her nod, before they shook hands. Not like friends, but more as if to seal some kind of deal. Yuma and Tsubaki smiled at the boys before they left the fountain and went to their respective males. Yuma walked up to Issei and gave him a kiss on the cheek. Issei, I'm sorry, but you will have to forget this day. I will cherish this day in your gift, said Yuma, lifting her arm up with a pink scrunchie. Yuma, what are you talking about? Asked Issei. Yuma smiled. You're a nice guy, Issei, but the world is cruel, and for you to be safe you have to forget about this day, said Yuma as she went to place a hand on his face. Issei wanted to scream in pain, but no sound left his mouth as a blue spear of light slammed through his chest. The brown-haired boy coughed up blood onto Raineir, whose eyes widened. Naruto and Tsubaki both looked behind Issei. Floating there were three people. A tall and buxom woman with brown eyes and long, navy blue hair that obscured her right eye. If her breasts were large as watermelons, then her legs were a mile long with hips that screamed, child bearing a maroon trenchcoat-like top with a wide collar, and the trenchcoat top was open at her chest, giving view to her breasts and cleavage, and the sleeves were rolled up past her elbows, with a deep white v-neck shirt, a matching maroon miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. Behind her back was two large raven-colored nags. Next was a girl with blonde hair which was styled into twintails and blue eyes. If anything, she reminded Naruto a bit of Kaneko with how her body was pre-propped. She wasn't tall, but Naruto could tell that this girl was sin incarnate. A gothic Lolita attire, which consisted of a black dress with white frills, a large black bow on the front, and a green jewel embedded on the collar, white thigh-high socks, and black Mary Janes. She also wore a large black bow on top of her hair. She had a smile on her face and a pair of black wings that did nothing to help with her innocent act. Finally, there was a middle-aged-looking man with short black hair and dark blue eyes, a pale gray trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants and shoes, a pair of black gloves, and a black fedora. He had 4 black wings. What is this? An episode of Young and the Restless? Asked the blonde fallen angel. Be nice, Miltet. After all, don't you usually have sex with your targets before killing them? Asked the blue-haired woman. Better than being a virgin spinster like your fat-ass Kalawaner, said Miltet. I'm not a spinster and I'm not fat. My one true love is sitting on the couch and doing nothing, yelled Kalawaner. Enough, you two, get Raineir. I'll handle the devil and her traitor pet, said the man. Damn you, you Dick Van Dyke wannabe, yelled Naruto as he summoned his spear and threw it at the man with all his might. The man smirked as he caught the spear. Naruto's eyes widened as he didn't know that his spears could be caught. Azazel during their training had always smashed them to pieces. Not bad, kid, said the man as he threw it at Tsubaki with twice the power and speed as Naruto's original spear. Tsubaki knew that she wouldn't be able to block the spear. Naruto jumped in front of Tsubaki, taking the spear of light in his stomach. Naruto grunted in pain as he went to his knee. He gripped the spear in his gut, before ripping it out only for 2 more to make their home in his chest. Naruto-kun! Yelled Tsubaki. Kalawaner cursed and turned to the trench coat-wearing man. Damn it, don't seek. That wasn't part of the plan. Raineir-sama ordered us to stay back and observe. If we were to attack the devils and the blonde-haired male were off limits. The man snorted. If the kid is so weak that a light spear could kill him, then he wasn't worthy of our ranks in the first place, said Donsik. Raineir glared. You moron! That's my nephew! Yelled Raineir. Milton looked at the bleeding Naruto and sighed. Shame. He looked like he would have been fun in bed, said the girl. Whatever, we need to leave now, said Calligraphy. Raineir cursed and looked between the two groups before she spread her four wings and followed after her comrades. As he lay there watching Tsubaki try and help Naruto, Issei couldn't help the feeling of jealousy in his chest. He didn't want to die alone. He wanted someone to be there for him. Someone as beautiful as Yuma. The blood on the ground sipped into a small seal before a circle appeared on the ground as Rias-senpai and Akino-senpai appeared. Naruto could barely hear what was happening as Rias seemed to be issuing orders. Whatever was going to happen, Naruto would figure once when not ifs were for suckers. He woke up. Location: Ko Town. Place: Edding Tides Restaurant/Uzumaki Residence. Time: 2100. The portal opened up and allowed Tsubaki, Akino, and Naruto into the room. Akino looked at the hole in Naruto's stomach, the blood dripping. Naruto coughing up blood. Akino was pulled into memories of her past, swinging blades, and magic attacks. The iron smell clung to the winds on that snow-filled day. Ino! Help me! You can help him better than I can, yelled Tsubaki as her hands glowed. Right, said Akino as her hands also glowed. Devils naturally had a hard time healing damage done by light magic and light-based weapons. Naruto's saving grace at the moment was that he was naturally born a fallen angel, while both girls worked to try and repair the damage. The door to the room opened. Hey, what's up with all the no dash? Started Mito as she and Eve walked. The two female devils looked at the two blonde fallen angels. Both of them were shocked seeing their loved one layered out on the bed. Mito summoned her knife while Eve created several tentacle blades from her hair. What did you do? Asked Eve, trying to act as the voice of reason, but was something hot crawling under her skin, wanting her to rip and tear and hurt so badly until the pain stopped. Tsubaki opened her mouth. We were attacked by fallen angels. Naruto-kun took a spear of light to save my life, said Tsubaki. So you used him as a shield to save your worthless ass? You were probably dropped by that worthless bitch you call a mother, yelled Mito, more than a little tempted to summon her own light spear and deal damage. What's all the noise? Started Kushina as she walked in, wiping her hands. Kushina looked at everything in the room before her eyes landed on her son. His prone body, the only thing she needed to see in order to act on her maternal instincts. Kushina grabbed Akino and Tsubaki by the fronts of their shirts and lifted them into the air. Her aura was dark, and she was about ready to destroy the two young women before her. Right now I don't care why I have two devils in my home. My son is laying there with a damn hole in his stomach. Tell your bosses that one more attempt on my son's life and the Red Death comes out of retirement. See yourselves out, or I'm going to deliver your heads to your respective masters in boxes. Am I understood? Said Kushina, dropping the duo. Akino and Tsubaki nodded to Kushina and quickly. Once they were gone, Kushina turned to Naruto and placed a hand on his face. Mito, call Tsunade and tell her to get here fast. Eve, call Minato and alert him that we need to fix the seals on the house, said Kushina. Yes, Kushina-sensei, said the two girls as they pulled out their phones and made the calls. Kushina's eyes never left her son's face. It's alright, Naruto-chan, mommy has you. Mommy won't let anything bad happen to you, not in the past, not in the present, not in the future. You can die 100 times and mommy will never allow you to cross over until you've lived a full and wonderful life, said Kushina as she laid her head on her son's stomach, not minding the blood at all. Location unknown. Place unknown. Time unknown. Naruto looked around at where he was. The place made no sense to his mind. Information was slammed into his mind. He felt like his body was being ripped apart 1,000 times over before it was put back together. He tried to look at something, anything to focus. That's when he managed to see it. An outline of a being. It was a swirling mass of energy and power. I is Oto and Yuha Aramia Gr per. What are you talking about? Who are you? Street O he 1 DNDI High ERS. What, I can't understand you. Why AV per UW or Ola to be he TD of THLD? Who are you? Your father. Naruto looked around. Last time I checked, Uzumaki Namake's Minato is my father. Not some voiceless guy, yelled Naruto. Why I alert to Peki Island. Location, Ko Town. Place, Edding Tides. Time, early morning, 2 days later. Azazel entered the house and looked at the bed where Naruto sat. In his left hand was a 50-pound dumbbell as he curled it. His stomach was wrapped in tape. Despite Akino and Tsubaki's healing. "You look like shit, kid," said Azazel. Naruto looked at Azazel with a glare. "Your kid's playmates weren't too nice." "I'm sure that the guy who did this was at least a 4-winged angel like Raineir," said Naruto. "You should have been able to beat him easy. While you only have 2 wings, you're already stronger than most 4-winged angels." Naruto looked at Azazel as he tossed Naruto a card case. Naruto opened the case and found 7 cards in the case. The world, the sun, the star, the moon, the judgment, the lovers, and the fool. Each of them were done in tribal fashion and they were hard, like crystals. 2. "What are these?" "They look like tarot cards," said Naruto. "The prototype of the GOAT system. You as the head of this group are the world, and your subordinates are the others." "What types of powers do that have?" asked Naruto. Azazel grinned. "Do you like RPGs?" asked Azazel. "Yeah. Especially Dragon's Journey." "Then you'll be able to figure it out pretty easily. The world is the party leader, the sun is the second and tactician, the moon has an increased magic reserve, the judgment has increased strength and defenses kinda like a rook, the lovers allows you to share your powers with anyone in the group, and the fool is a jack of all trades, but master of none." A fist blasted through the wall to Naruto's room, and in walked a large man. The man was taller. Taller than Naruto, or even Azazel, standing at 6 feet 6 inches, and he was probably north of 300 pounds with how large he was in the muscles department. His skin was milk chocolate in color, blonde white hair that was combed backwards, small mustache and goatee. His face has pronounced cheekbones and tear troughs under his eyes, and a prominent crease across his forehead, wearing a black button-up shirt, gray pants, a training jacket with lighting cord on it and a fist holding a lightning bolt on the back, and black loafers. This man was Senju, the AJWF heavyweight champion, leader of the Lightning Court, Tsunade's husband, Shizen's adopted father, and one of the people who helped train Naruto. Azazel jumped up and prepared for a fight. "Brat, what's this I hear about you losing a fight?" It was at that moment Naruto wished that the douchebag finished him off. Location: Ko Town. Place: Edding Tides Restaurant / Uzumaki Residence, Naruto's room. Time: 2300. "Brat, what's this I hear about you losing a fight?" yelled I as he lifted his left hand and flexed it to the point where his joints were popping. Naruto and Azazel looked at the man who just crashed into his room. Azazel was on the defense, while Naruto was nearly cowering in phantom headache as he looked at Ice's left hand. I wasn't a weakling by any means, and in fact, Naruto considered him one of the. Naruto, despite his injuries, jumped up and tried to flee through the window, only for I to grab him and lift him up in the air. Iron Claw! "Ah! Ah! Ah! I give up, Uncle I!" yelled Naruto, gripping Ice's hands to try and pry his grizzly bear-like hand off his head. I growled in annoyance as he increased the pressure. "Who said you can give up? I'm taking you to the Lighting Court training arena. 200 push-ups, 1,000 rope bounces, and 500 falls. And don't forget your 100 energy bars. Also, no ramen until you're done," said I. Naruto began to cry anime tears. Azazel was at a loss for words. "Damn it, you put another fucking hole in my house," yelled Kushina as she rounded the corner with a frying pan and slammed it on his head. I yelled in pain as he let Naruto go, before he held his own head in pain. "What the hell, Uzumaki?" yelled I, only to go pale as Kushina's dark aura appeared. "I thought I was going to die," thought Naruto. After this, Naruto fell onto the ground and held his head. Kushina was standing above I, yelling at him as he bowed his head to the woman as Tsunade walked in with Minato, before she wrote a check to Kushina. I and Minato looked at each other. "I," said Minato, nodding to I. "Minato," said I, nodding to Minato. Before they charged at each other and punched each other across the face with a left hook each. Minato had speed, but I had power. Neither man moved before they yelled and began to trade blows. It was well known among their little family that Minato and I had a rivalry when it came to their respective sports. Minato was a former boxer while I was an active wrestler, and had been for about 15 to 20 years. Eve, who had snuck and looked at the two males and wondered if this was a greeting or a show of dominance. She didn't have to wonder as long as Kushina and Tsunade hit their respective husband across the head with frying pans, stopping the fight, as they berated them for their childish antics. While this was happening, Eve walked over to Naruto's bed and stole his takoyaki. "Oh, by the way, Azazelaji, I have to ask something," said Naruto. "What is it?" asked Azazel. Why did Raineir and her group attack and kill the pervert? From what I was able to figure out, they weren't supposed to kill Issei, but observe him. Azazel looked at Naruto with a smile. So, you figured that out here? It's not that simple. I create the orders based on the information and the needs of my people, distribute them down the line to my various cadre, and they have to break it down further to the officers and soldiers. As part of our code, I'm not supposed to directly interfere with the lower-ranked fallen. It's a rule that I created to make sure that the Triangle of Terror doesn't overstep our boundaries. Triangle of Terror? Asked Naruto. The three most powerful fallen angels there are, and the governing body of the fallen angels: Governor General, the most sinister fallen angel Azazel, Vice Governor General, the Eyes of the World Shemhazai, and Chief Secretary of the Gigori, the Lightning of God Berakil. In terms of power, they could rival the four statons, said Tsunade. Before Naruto could get a word in, a black-haired missile tackled him to the bed. Naruto-kun, I'm so glad that you okay, asked Shizen, nuzzling Naruto's face with her own. Naruto opened his mouth to speak but noticed that Shizen was wearing a pink nurse's outfit with a cap and white stockings. Naruto blushed. Naruto had seen Shizen in her nurse's outfit before. Her regular work one, but not the sexy kind. Naruto would never admit it under threat of never eating ramen again, but he had rubbed out more than one at the thought of Shizen in such a sexy outfit. It also didn't help that he had been on a dry run since his and Akino's breakup. Dreams do come true, yelled Chibi Naruto. Shizen-chan, what are you wearing? Asked Naruto, trying to stop the blood flow to a certain part of his body. Do you like it, Naruto-kun? I bought it. Just for you, said Shizen, winking at Naruto. Kushina smirked at her son. She insisted on being your nurse. Tsunade even sent her over, but the damage wasn't as bad as we first thought. Damn kid is lucky, said Azazel. Of course he is. My little Shizu would only accept the strongest man alive as her future husband. Which is why we have to triple his training. And get you a Tur man's body, yelled I as he flexed, destroying the upper parts of his suit and jacket. Gria, help me, yelled Naruto. Gria was hiding behind a rock in Naruto's mind. You're on your own, partner. That guy is freaking nuts. Traitor. Ka-chan? Asked Naruto. Oh snap. Sorry, Naruto-chan, but it's time to teach Mito a new dish, said Kushina, waving to Naruto before she left the room and headed downstairs. Eve-chan, your Nissan needs help. But I thought that you wanted to be out of bed? Asked Eve, tilting her head as she chewed on her snack. Et2 Eve-chan. 2-chan? Asked Naruto. Sorry, Naruto, I can't do anything to help you, said Minato, as he had been ordered under pain, sleeping on the couch not to interfere. Tsunade-ba-chan? Asked Naruto, dreading the answer. The air would do you some good, so would the training. No magic and nothing too over the top, dear, said Tsunade as she looked at her husband. I nodded before grabbing Naruto. Let's go, brat, yelled I as he jumped out the window and headed towards the lighting court's training hall. Shizen looked at the wall where Naruto and her adopted father with watery eyes as Chibi Shizen was ranting on the inside. No! I wanted to nurse Naruto back to full health. And during a check, we would engage in some really erotic sex, maybe bondage. Damn you, Yusen. Location: Ko Town / Ko Academy. Place: ORC Clubhouse. Time: 0000. Rias paced back and forth in her office while looking at several files on her desk. Each was as important as the last, and each one deserving of her full attention. The easiest one to deal with was the one for her newest family member, Hayata Issei. 6 pawns, for a fucking twice critical. Her saving grace came in the fact that she managed to get to Issei before his heart stopped. Had he died, it probably would have taken all of her pawns to bring him back to life. Her power of Gremory seemed to have failed her this time. If Sona knew how much she traded for such a weakling, then she would laugh at her. As a human, Issei was weak. Sure, turning into a devil boosted his natural abilities, but base devils were not much stronger than a human. Rias herself, if she was to fight a human, was probably as strong as a human male who worked out on a regular basis without needing to exercise herself. In terms of natural strength, Issei was probably now able to lift 300 pounds without feeling the strain, but that wasn't much. She would have to train him and teach him how to pick his fights. This brought her to her second problem. Those fallen angels had fucked things up royally. Rias never planned to let Issei die. In fact, she planned to let the date play out, thinking that the fallen angels would either erase his memory or try to monitor him more closely. Not kill him. With his death, that opened up a can of worms that she would have to answer for. But at the same time, Tsubaki herself was also in trouble, as she had knowingly been in the presence of a hostile faction member. On top of that, Akino and Tsubaki had informed both her and Sona that Naruto's mother had said that she would come out of retirement as the Red Death. Rias didn't understand what she meant, but quickly put feelers for any and all information that she could find about the Red Death. And what she found was disturbing, to say the least. In the human world, she had led a group of females called themselves Riot. Uzumaki Kushina, Uchiha Mikoto, Nara Yoshino, and Inuzuka Tsum. The three of them had been known to fight with groups of boys who pissed them off, especially Kushina. Tsum acted as the group's enforcer, while Yoshino was the one who kept them from getting into too much trouble, while Mikoto was the backer that had connections to the NPF and could get them out of any real issues. But that was their human records. Their supernatural records painted a more frightening tale. Tsum was the head of a branch werewolf pack consisting of her husband, his brother, and her 2 children. Rias had once heard a rumor that female werewolves often had more than one mate, but even the birth certificates said that both her children came from the same father. Yoshino was a shadow demon, but she disappeared from the map shortly after getting married. Mikoto too vanished, and there wasn't any intel on if she was a human or not. Finally, there was Uzumaki Kushina, a woman who was an SS-rank threat to devils. Kushina and her cousin Senju Tsunade, descendants of Azazel. This information was terrible. Rias didn't know how close Kushina was with Azazel, but if he was anything like her brother and valued his family, he would start a war for just Naruto having a fever. Not to mention that he was in the middle of a scrap between herself and a group of fallen angels. Sona was already on her ass about the incident, and told Rias that in no uncertain terms that if another security failure happened on Rias's watch that she wasn't going to cover her ass again. She straight up told her that she would take it to a higher power. In short, she would tell her sister, who would tell Rias's brother. A prospect that she didn't want to happen. Rias rubbed her hand and thought about it. If she had known how much influence Naruto had, she had to get back into his good graces. But that would be easier said than done. Sighing, Rias took a seat at her desk and pulled out a magical girl manga. This is such a pain to deal with, said the red-haired devil as she needed to rest her mind for a bit. Location, Ko Town. Place, Gremry apartment, Akino's room. Time, same as above. Akino sat in her room with a calligraphy brush, special paper, and wearing her Priestess of Thunder outfit. She gently grabbed her sleeve and lifted it so the sleeve wouldn't brush the paint and began to write slowly and deliberately. She allowed her thoughts to come out with each stroke of the brush. Everything over the past month had hurt her. Naruto's awakening as a fallen angel, Rias having to punish her, Tsubaki going after her ex-lover. The feelings that were still in her heart with Naruto. Akino wasn't going to lie and say that she didn't go on a date after her breakup. She went with a college student and thought that he would be a fun guy. The guy hung of her and even felt her breasts up. Akino didn't have a problem with that, but his skills left a lot to be desired. Naruto's touches when they were in public were always soft and gentle. When he took her to bed or even on the train at one time, he was a beast. A monster that brought out the masochist in her. She rubbed her thighs together and bit her lips, but remained focused on her art. She never understood how just a month without sex had it constantly on the brain. More specifically, a certain blonde-haired young man. Akino finished her art, took away the brush, and looked at the kanji that showed subconsciously she had written the name of Naruto. What was wrong with her? Why couldn't she get her former lover out of her mind? Akino grits her teeth as she takes a finger and touched it to the piece of paper, making it burn to a crisp. Akino rose from her seat and made her way to her shower. Location, Ko Town/Ko Academy. Place, Kickboxing Team's Training Dojo. Time, 1800. Naruto looked at Mio as she pounded on the sandbag with powerful punches and kicks. Naruto always admired her for her form. There were a few rumors that Naruto was interested in more with how often Naruto had one-on-one training with Mio, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Naruto and Mio purely existed as captain and vice-captain of the club. Naruto took a good look at Mio and couldn't help but to admire her looks. At 16 she was slender, fair-skinned, standing around 5 feet 3 inches, lean, and athletically well-defined in musculature. Her most noticeable physical trait is her surprisingly developed and curvaceous frame with large D-cup breasts, hip-length blonde hair that has short bangs, bright blue eyes, and a beauty mark under her left eye. She currently wore a purple one-piece spandex outfit. She was also a lot stronger than she looked. Naruto had seen her crush a brick by just gripping it. 1. Hey Mio, that's enough for today. Mio stopped mid-kick and slowly lowered it to the ground. She looked at Naruto, and for a moment Naruto remembered that the kind girl had a dark side as she looked at Naruto with narrowed eyes. Naruto shivered for a second, but Mio smiled as she made her way over to Naruto. Naruto handed her a pair of red-framed glasses and a contact case. Once she took her contacts out and put on her glasses, she grabbed a towel. "How was that, Uzumaki-senpai?" asked Mio. Naruto smiled. "That was good. Before long you'll be stronger than me, Mio-chan." Mio blushed before she waved her hands in front of her. "No, Uzumaki-senpai. I could never be better than you. You inspired me to do better, Uzumaki-senpai. I want to catch up to you," said Mio. Naruto smiled. "You're already one of the strongest people I know anyway. I'm feeling a bit stiff after training with my uncle, said the blonde-haired male as he rolled his shoulders. As Naruto said this, he remembered that I had basically hit him with his lightning lariat and his thunder bomb. I was a heavyweight, but when he wanted to he moved like a cruiserweight. It was one of the reasons he had reigned over the AJWF as the heavyweight champion for the past 2 years. "Go get showered and changed and head home, Mio. We have a companion in 2 weeks and I want all club members there and ready for combat," said Naruto. Mio smiled and snapped off a salute. "Can do," Uzumaki-senpai said. The door to the gym opened, and in walked Gaara. He looked around for a moment before he walked over to Naruto. Over his shoulder was his bag. "Naruto, are you ready to head out?" asked Gaara. "Sure, I wanted to talk to you about something anyway. Let's head to the usual spot." "Let me change first," said Naruto. The usual spot, as it turned out, was a riverbank. It was actually pretty special to them as it was where Naruto had first met Gaara. The red-haired boy had always gotten teased or bullied because he was shorter than most kids his age. This was due to being born prematurely by nearly a month as his mother died in childbirth. His father couldn't take it and separated Gaara from his elder siblings Temari and Kankuro, but those. It was because of this that Gaara was raised by his uncle. The day Naruto met Gaara, he was being attacked by some kids who were pissed off that Temari rejected them and decided to take it out on her beloved little brother. It just so happened that an 11-year-old Naruto had been passing by and took to fighting with the 6 older boys. Naruto held his own before the numbers game became too much. Eventually, Kankuro and Temari joined the fray. After which all of them were left tired, bruised, but otherwise laughing about it. It was from that day forward that Gaara had been Naruto's best friend. He also got to know both his siblings and they even called him the honorary little brother. Currently, his elder sister was studying Tokoyo, while his brother was training to be a great doll maker. Although Gaara himself was into politics and planned to go into parliament when he was older. "What did you want to talk about, Naruto?" asked Gaara. Naruto smiled. "Are you still a virgin?" Wham! A laughing Naruto came off his feet as a blushing Gaara had decked him. This was a usual question from Naruto to Gaara. The short red-haired boy was something of a prude. While he could look at a female with that blank expression on his face, he would faint at the barest hint of skin past a certain point. It was actually pretty shocking that he was able to go to the beach at times. "You know that I am. You're the one who set me up with Matsuri when we went on a double date, and she was a real possessive type," said Gaara, shaking his hand. "Right, she was a handful. Nice girl though," said Naruto, wiping his face. "What do you really want, Naruto?" asked Gaara. "What if I told you the supernatural was real? Gods, dragons, angels, devils, demons, and monsters?" asked Naruto. "I would tell you to show me proof, but I was interested in hearing more," said Gaara. Naruto looked at his friend before he allowed his wings to appear, allowing feathers to rain down, before he gently rose up and floated over to Gaara. Gaara for his part was speechless. He expected something of a meta joke, or even Naruto to tell him that he approached him, but not this. Even so, Gaara didn't plan to run away from his brother. "What if I told you that I was a fallen angel?" said Naruto. "I would tell you that it changed nothing about our relationship and that you are my best friend and I would follow you to hell and back if you needed my help," said Gaara. "What if I told you that my great times 3 grandfather created a way to turn ordinary humans into fallen angels? What if I told you that I want you to be my number 2 in my personal group of fallen angels called the Phalanx?" asked Naruto, coming up with the term that used the GOAT system on the spot. "I would call you stupid for even thinking I'd turn you down," said Gaara. Naruto smiled before he pulled out the "Son. Are you sure you want to do this? I didn't ask old Pervywings if this process is reversible or not. That being said, I also don't know the side effects since this is the new technology for fallen angels," said Naruto. "We will cross that bridge when we come to it, Naruto," said Gaara. "Alright then, let's do this, Gaara as my friend and ally. I beneath them come join the ranks of those trapped between holy and unholy. Join my phalanx as the sun," said Naruto as he charged some of his own energy into the card and threw it at Gaara. The sun settled on Gaara's chest before sinking in. At first, nothing happened before Gria felt a rapid pain shoot to his head. Gria wanted to scream, to give the pain an outlet, but the grip on his body was tight, forcing him to the ground. The ground under Gria began to turn to sand before it shot up and slammed into his forehead. While this was happening, a black pair of wings tore through his school shirt. They were bloody and limp, weak from the first time they came into the world. As Naruto watched on, he wondered if he had looked like this when Rias had tried to turn him into a devil. After another minute of this, the sand stopped and the crimson life liquid was dripping from Gara's forehead in the shape of a red kanji tattoo that if you read would read love. "You alright, brother?" asked Naruto. Gria sighed as he looked at Naruto. "I feel like my body weighs 1,000 pounds, said Gria. "Too." Naruto smiled. "We'll work on it. For now, I'll talk to Sona about you missing school for a few days. You're going to have to get used to your new body." "Me next, Uzumaki-senpai!" yelled Mio, landing in front of Naruto and Gria. Naruto and Gria jumped as Mio ran up to them and stopped as she looked at Naruto square in the eyes. "How the hell did she get past the barrier you set up?" asked Gria with wide eyes. "Maybe she has a natural affinity for supernatural things," thought Naruto with a sweat drop. "Uzumaki-senpai turned me into a fallen angel too," yelled Mio. Naruto rubbed his head. "Sorry, Mio, but I want to save my cards for people who I can trust," said Naruto. At his words, Mio's eyes began to tear up. Naruto's sweat dropped and tried not to succumb to her tears. But what was he if not a man who was weak to three things? His mother's wrath, good ramen, and a woman's tears. Something his father called the three vices of a man. In his father's former master's case, it was women, money, and alcohol. Another weakness Naruto had was that he was far too kind. He knew Mio was powerful, but it wasn't a question of strength that had him worried. By nature, devils and fallen angels not only had different physiology to humans but different psychology as well. The change from human to fallen was painful. When Naruto had changed, it had opened up parts of his body that he never even knew existed. According to Azazel, he had a new network that helped carry his magic, and his brain had been reworked so as not to harm him when he used to said magic. On the psychological side of things, it was much different. First of all, Naruto once considered killing to be something only officers, soldiers, and the truly depraved did, with the rare exceptions of people killing in defense. Now the very idea of killing someone was just an afterthought. On the other, Naruto wouldn't have dreamed of having more than a more active partner as a joke, but now he had no problems thinking that many females was barely enough to state his growing lust. Naruto sighed before summoning another card. This time he summoned the Judgment. "I beneath them come join the ranks of those trapped between holy and unholy. Join my order as the Judgment." Naruto threw the card at Mio as it landed and sank into her chest. Like Gria, she felt nothing for a few minutes, before her eyes widened, before a dark aura exploded from her body, before she went to the ground and threw up bile, as a pair of black wings ripped from her back, and just like Garia's, they were bloody. Naruto sighed before he pulled out his phone and made a call. It rang for a few seconds. "Naruto-kun, this is a surprise," said Tsubaki on the other end of the line. "Hey Tsubaki-chan. I know that we need to talk about what happened, but I need a favor from the student council," said Naruto. "What type of favor?" asked Tsubaki. "I need a couple of missing day vouchers, 3 to be specific," said Naruto. "That's a tall order, Naruto-kun," said Tsubaki. "I'll owe you one," said Naruto. The line was quiet for a moment. "Very well. And it will be 2 favors. One as Uzumaki Naruto and the other as a fallen angel," said Tsubaki. Naruto grinned. "Thanks, Tsubaki-chan. You're the best," said Naruto. "I'll bring them to your house later. Hopefully, I can speak with Kushina-san as well," said Tsubaki before hanging up the phone. Naruto turned to Gria and Mio. "Alright, let's head to Uncle I's gym," said Naruto. Location: Ko Town/Ko Academy. Place: Student Council Room. Time: 2000. As Tsubaki looked at her phone, she turned her head and looked to her king, who was smiling at her. "I hope that this won't come to bite us in the future," said Tsubaki. Sona picked up a knight and looked at the chess board before moving it within striking distance of a king. "Uzumaki-san is quite a valuable piece. He's the ultimate wild card. And if a few day passes are good enough for a future favor, I'll be careful. I'm more interested in this personal favor," said Sona. Tsubaki smiled. "That's my little secret, Sona-sama," said Tsubaki. Naruto speaks to Gria and tells him the truth about the supernatural world and asks him to join his guild. Gria decides to join the group, but as Naruto is speaking to Gria, Mio overhears and jumps at the chance to join her senpai. Location, Ko Town. Place, Lightning Court Gym. Time, 1000. The Lightning Court was a large training facility. The outside was white, but painted on the door was the official logo of the Lightning Court. A hand holding a thunderbolt with the words Lightning Court under it. Entering the facility, it was even more impressive. They had an indoor track, a pool, all kinds of weightlifting and cardio machines, as well as 3 rings and an MMA pit. Of course, they also happened to have a permanent ring where they held live shows over the internet once a week. Overall, the Lightning Court had 40 members on its roster. Already several of its members were engaged in training or going over their movies for this week's show. Myo looked on in awe at the Lightning Court facility. For Gaara, it wasn't as impressive since he had been here before. For Naruto, this was one of his homes when it came to training his ability to fight. I had introduced Naruto to the wonders of wrestling at a young age. Tsunade, I, and Shizen were going to America to promote the opening of the New York branch of the Senju Industries. He fell in love with it when he saw Shawn Michael vs. The Undertaker and Streak vs. Career. Once they returned to Japan, Naruto would spend weeks learning the basic craft of wrestling entertainment and the amount of damage some of the moves could do. While some were relatively safe, if a big man lifts you 7 feet in the air and slams your body into the ground, you're going to feel it. Wow! This is so cool! Yelled Myo before she turned to Naruto. Why have you never brought me here? Naruto smiled. Sorry. It's actually a rule that minors aren't allowed here unless Uncle I or high-profile members of the Lightning Court are here. See, the Lightning Court itself is in indie territory. That means that they have their own schedules and the like. They maintain a steady paycheck and this building due to being an affiliate of Senju Industries. If Uncle I wanted to, he could break out of the indies and into the Japan main stage, but he won't do that as he says that the business is already big enough with a lot of names popping up on the indies. He feels that it would be an insult to do so, said Naruto. Myo turned to Gaara. Have you been here before? I have. I only had a few lessons with B-sensei, but I learned a lot. Last time I was here there were 30 active members outside the main crew, said Gaara. It's expanded to 50 not including Uncle I and the main players who have to be on AJWF television weekly, said Naruto as he waved at the regulars. How many people do they pack in a week? Asked Myo as she wanted to go to the punching bags and rip them apart with her punches and kicks. We pack at least 5,000 people every 2 weeks. We have enough people to be able to switch out on a whim without the product being stale, said a voice. Walking over to them was a buxom blonde-haired woman. She was fairly tall with the top of her head stopping at Naruto's eye level, a fair-skinned woman with a curvaceous figure who generally wore a stoic, aloof expression on her face. Icy blue eyes and straight, shoulder-length blonde hair cut in an asymmetrical bob style. She wore a gray V-neck shirt with the Lightning Court logo on it, black wristbands, a pair of white yoga pants that hugged her legs, and a pair of purple and white running shoes. She walked up to Naruto and smiled before hugging Naruto. So cool to see you again, cousin, said the girl. Hey Samui-chan. I see you're still cold as ice, said Naruto giving Samui a kiss on the top of her head. Samui pulled away from Naruto before hugging Gaara. Red. Good to see you too. Gaara was able to hide it well, but the blush he had on his face was on full display to Naruto. Samui-san, good to see you again, said Gaara. Myo looked at Naruto and Samui before letting out a sigh. Do you have a blonde fetish or something, senpai? Why do you seem to hang out with so many busted blondes? Asked Myo. Gria was rolling on the ground laughing at her partner. Oh, I love this girl. When are you going to make her a bride? Naruto's jaw dropped. Since when has Myo been such a sassy little thing? Gaara let out a chuckle. She has you there, Naruto, said Gaara. Samui gave a chuckle before she looked at Myo. So, this is your little Kohaui? Best fighter on the kickboxing team besides me, said Naruto. That a problem, big boob, sis? Asked Myo. Samui smirked. It's not cool to disrespect your elders. I might have to teach you a lesson, little sis, said the bob-cut-haired blonde. Samui walked right up to her and practically squashed their chests together, giving several males nosebleeds. Myo glared at her. Before she could open her mouth, Samui grabbed and hit her with a fisherman's snap suplex. Myo yelled in pain, before Samui flipped over and wrapped her legs around her arm and pulled her into a falling armbar. Myo had the presence of mind to clinch her hands together to keep Samui from getting the full effect of the attack locked. However, Myo wasn't the vice-captain of the kickboxing club for nothing. Myo raised her hips and rolled before she lifted Samui in the air, showing how strong she was, before she hit her with a sit-out powerbomb. Samui gasped as she was forced to release the armbar, as she rolled away and back to her feet. Samui glared at Myo as blew out cold air from her mouth as the air temperature dropped. Mio, Naruto, and Gaara were instantly on guard at this motion. Samui seemed to realize what she did and sighed, before getting up. Seems I let myself go for a second. Not cool, said Samui. Samui, are you a fallen angel? Asked Naruto. Samui raised an eyebrow at this. So you finally learned about the supernatural, huh? About time if you asked me. No, I'm not a fallen angel. The majority of the Lightning Court are either yokai or humans who are aware of the supernatural. It's one of the reasons for our stiff shoot styles of wrestling, said Samui. You mean all of Lightning Court? Yep, little nine. Seems you finally into the secrets of the big time, said another voice. Naruto smirked at the new arrival. The 5-time AJWF Openweight Champion, 2-time AJWF Tag Team Champion, and 1-time AJWF Heavyweight Champion. Kira B. B was a pretty big guy, but not as big as I was. Dark skin and a muscular build, blonde hair pulled into braids, and a goatee. On his right shoulder, he has a tattoo of the kanji for iron, and on his left cheek, he has a tattoo of a bull's horn. Wearing a black muscle shirt with the Lighting Court logo, white shorts, and black and yellow shoes. Hey Uncle B, what's up? You still hitting the weights getting buff? Asked Naruto. B smirked. You know it, Wyo. So nephew, you finally in on the secret, said B. I guess I am. So are you a demon or a human, Uncle B? Asked Naruto. B smile. I'm a half demon, yo. Half human, half ox demon. But we're off track. What are you doing here? Asked B. Azazel gave me some cards to reincarnate people into fallen angels. My best friend and vice captain here, however, both are not sure how to control their new powers. So I figured I'd come to Uncle I and ask him to help train them. I's not here, little man. But I can give you 2 people to help train the future champs. Durai and Kurai can handle their training. They're in the underground hall, said B. Thanks, B, said Naruto. I hope you didn't think you're not going out of it, little man. You have to get some practice in too, said B. 1. Naruto smirked at B. I don't plan on getting my ass kicked here, B. Location, Ko Town. Place, downtown area. Time, 1600. Eve walked towards the school with an ice cream cone in hand. For the last 2 days, Naruto had been training his new phalanx members and himself. Eve would be honest in herself and say that she didn't know how strong she and her friends were. Sure, Naruto had his sacred gear, but Eve hadn't seen Naruto train with it at all. She frowned as she looked at her hand. The palm turned into steel before she clenched her hand. She wanted to join them in training, but Minato was being such a dad and told her that Naruto was one thing and that she was too fragile to go through that hellish training that the LC did. Naruto had been through the training before she had not. This brought another thing to her mind. Naruto had trained with Azazel for a month and then the Lightning Court for 3 days. What was the point? Was he getting stronger? What was his reason for getting stronger? Why did Azazel give Naruto the prototype for the GOAT system? Was Naruto just a pawn in a larger game? She needed to know if one of her loved ones was in danger or not. As she was about to turn and leave, she spotted a young woman looking around for something, seemingly worried about it. As she was looking for a man in a suit walked up to her. Eve frowned at this. The man looked like a classic pervert. Rotund, balding, and overall nasty. Eve wasn't going to let this go. She walked up slowly. I'd go away, I'm busy, said the girl. The man gave a small laugh. Come on, cutie. Uncle will treat you right, said the man. The girl sighed. You're not my type. And trust me, I've slept with better, said the girl. The man put a hand on his face and smirked. So you got some experience. That's a bit of a letdown, but I can work with that. 2. Hey! Yelled Eve, making the man turn to her. The man turned and looked at Eve before his nostrils flared. Damn, 2 for the price of 1. And you a blonde too. Come with me and I'll treat you nice along with your Wani-chan here, said the man as he reached for Eve. Eve's hand turned into steel as she balled up her fist and punched the man in the stomach hard enough to send him flying into a food cart. Several people looked at the commotion, and some people pulled out cell phones. The blonde Lolita seemed to gather spit in her hand before spitting in the man's face. Pervert, not even the sexy kind, said the girl. Are you alright? Asked Eve. Yeah. I'm fine. I was a second away from hitting that bastard with a spear of light, said the girl, wiping dirt off of her dress. Spear of light? Are you a fallen angel? Asked Eve. The girl smirked. Milted at your service. I take it you yourself are a fallen angel, miss, said the girl, curtsying to Eve. Eve. Eve Volfiot and I am, said Eve, not wanting to reveal the truth about her status as an artificial fallen angel. So what division are you part of? Asked Miltet. I guess I'm part of the research division, said Eve. It was true enough. Eve was a byproduct of the research division of the Gigori. Miltet sighed. I guess it was too much to hope that someone from the combat division would have come here to help us. Man, if only the investigation division had more capable fighters. So, what are you doing? Asked Eve. Miltet let out another sigh as she sat on the bench with Eve following suit. I was watching a charge that Leader Sama told us he was sending here. He had to bypass some regulations and even might have started a fight with the devils after that little deviant did what he did, said Miltet. Eve didn't know what she was talking about and honestly didn't want to know. She filed this information away for later, but it was of no use to her at the moment. Who is this charge? Asked Eve. Asia Argento. The saint of healing, or her heretic name the Foolish Witch, said Miltet, getting up. Where are you going? Asked Eve. I'm heading to the church. I just got a missive from my comrades. Eve and Miltet arrived at the abandoned church. Eve was sad to see the state of the church, but considering that devils ran the territory, it was to be expected. It was also pretty expected since devils could be hurt by prayer and religious icons. Miltet looked at Eve. Well, Eve, it was a pleasure seeing you. I hope to see you again, said Miltet. Eve looked at her and nodded before smiling. Very well, Miltet. Please be careful with your mission, said Eve, sticking out her hand. Miltet looked at Eve before she grinned and shook her hand. See you around, Eve, said Miltet as she ran up the stairs. Eve looked at the stairs and thought about what her new friend said. Location, Ko Town. Place, Edding Tides Restaurant / Uzumaki Residence. Time, 2200. A movie was playing in the background as Naruto and Mito sat on the couch in her room. It wasn't anything overly romantic, just them hanging out. Although considering they had cooked the meal together, flirted, and had managed to get the house to themselves by having Eve go to Tsunade's house for the evening and Minato and Kushina went to a love hotel for the evening, one owned by Senju Industries. So here they were cuddling on the couch watching an action movie on Hulu. Mito had her head on Naruto's chest, while Naruto had his arm around her shoulder. The remains of their dinner sitting on the table. The last 3 days of training from B-sensei was brutal, said Naruto. Mito smiled. Really, you big baby? It wasn't that bad, said Mito. The blonde male snorted. Wait till you train with B. Love the man to death, but he's crazy in his training. Taking 5 of his Liger bombs is like getting hit by a bullet train. And don't get me started on Uncle Ice Lariat. That thing should be classified as a deadly weapon, said Naruto. The training that the trio did in the lighting quartz facility was actually pretty light compared to what he went through with Azazel. Since they weren't training to be wrestlers, they instead focused on their individual abilities. For Gaara, since he seemed to have a connection with earth magic, particularly Sand Samui and Durai were the perfect duo to train him, while Myo seemed to have a knack for enhancement and dark magic. This counts as a date, you know, said Mito. Naruto smiled. I wasn't sure if this counted or not, said Naruto. We are alone. We're having fun, just enjoying each other's company. Hands stay on my hips and ass, said Mito, smiling before crawling into Naruto's lap and locking lips with her intended target. As the duo made out, Mito's hands found their way to Naruto's hair and Naruto's hands went to her waist. It was so slim and muscular. Mito was a beauty that could easily be overlooked compared to Rias or Akino. Mito's hands found Naruto's chest and rubbed it. His chest was well defined and hard to the touch. The phone began to ring, interrupting their together time. Mito glared at the phone before picking it up and answering it, putting it on speaker. Azazel, this better be good, growled the blonde female. It is Raineir and her squad are about to make a mistake that could start a war, said Azazel, his normal perverted self seemingly gone. What do you mean to spark a war? Asked Naruto, taking the phone from Mito. I had to break a few rules that could get me in trouble with not only my own people but heaven and the devils. The girl Asia Argento, who is at the center of this controversy, is probably the most gifted user of all the active Twilight healing users. Instead of healing, she's basically reversing the damage to null and even getting rid of the fatigue. There's actually a theory in the sacred gear research community that hers has evolved, said Azazel. Evolved? Asked Naruto. I don't have time to get into it, but we'll talk about it later. Right now, I need you to get to the church where they have set up shop and stop them from completing the ritual. I'm already running damage control on my end, said Azazel, hanging up the phone. Guess the date's over, said Mito. Naruto sighed in annoyance. Someone is